What's going on, Jets fans? Welcome into NYJ today. It is the 40 burger episode. We are putting up a 40 burger on all of y'all. Happy to be here. James, how you doing tonight, man? You got the Crimson Tide stripes. Oh, that's a
Yeah,
solid. That's the solid jersey with the circle on it.
yeah. It is. Yeah, no, I'm doing good. Figured I'd sport some college gear when we go into the whole Senior Bowl. There's a couple Alabama players there that I've highlighted in my extremely long notes, by the way. So
Oof.
we're in for a good discussion here, and sick intro, by the way. Love the intro.
Thank you very much. That's a brand new one. Yeah, I edited that one up. I think it was not yesterday, the day before that. And I'm probably committing a bunch of crimes, stealing off the internet, a bunch of stuff, but I think it looks really cool. So we'll see if YouTube agrees that it's just as cool. Vern, and everybody that's joined us in the chat, it is good to see you. Mike, how you feeling tonight?
Pumped, baby. Got the mock drafts coming back. So, first one since last off season, man. That's crazy.
It's been a minute, as they say.
Yeah, it sure has. No, I'm really pumped up.
All
Good
right.
football. Good football over the weekend. I really enjoyed those games. So, looking forward to final final cherry on top. We'll see how it goes next week.
For sure. I'm going to give a shout out to pretty much everybody that's here so far. We've got Matthias Simon, Rusty Spooner, Straight 100 Jets, Grant Rude. We got Vern, Kev Chatta. All of you guys are here. Don't forget, and again, if you're watching this after the stream airs, don't forget to hit the like button. Consider subscribing if you're new to the channel. We really appreciate you checking out the content. So we'll get right into it. There's a lot going on in the NFL. We'll start with some of the sadder news, some of the disappointing stuff. So if you hadn't heard, guard Cameron Clark, who suffered an injury in a training camp practice last season, or last off season, or whatever you want to call it, he is forced to retire. His career in the NFL is over. This was a guy that Jets fans were really hoping would become a starter and was going to potentially push Greg Van Roten out of the lineup. And I think for selfish reasons, that's what we think as fans. But at the end of the day, he's a human being, so it really sucks for him that he's having to hang up his cleats. Just any particular thoughts, James? You played football. I guess Mike, technically, you played football too in high school. What are your thoughts on that, James? Real quick on just him having to do this.
Yeah, I mean, it's really unfortunate, but he was clearly told the risk, right? If he continued on to play, which, I mean, the report said paralysis, right? So he had a chance that his quality of life would have been, deteriorated to an extent where it just wasn't worth the risk. So, I mean, when you're dealing with that, it's definitely unfortunate because he probably is going to look back and say, if I was healthy, I maybe would have had a chance to crack the starting lineup as a fourth round rookie or, a sophomore now this year.
Yep.
Who knows what would happen. So, you feel for the guy, but you're also glad that it's not, he's in a position now where he can, kind of move on with his life and do something that, he maybe still has a passion for. And it's just not going to be football. So it's tough.
Yep. Yeah, definitely. And he's a young man too, so there's a whole
Yeah.
whole other
Life.
bag of things he can do. He can choose whatever he wants. That's the wonderful thing. Mike, any comments on just him, that decision
No.
and having to do so?
Yeah, James touched on it. I just think in a lot of situations in life, there's the half glass full and the half glass empty, and this is sad. It's sad for him and all the blood, sweat, and tears he put into coming up and getting to a professional team. But he's so young. He still has the ability to live a great full life. And, to James's point, it won't be football, but, sometimes life puts you on different paths for different reasons. So he'll find his way.
I like that a lot. All right, very cool. Thanks for that. So we will move on. And we will go to the mailbag first. We have a couple of mailbags tonight, and we will be going over pretty much all of the position groups that are of interest for the Jets. We'll talk about them I'll go ahead and I'll lay it out there right now. I am no expert. I am a fan of football. I am a Jets fan. I will do my research and I will continue to learn about these players. And I did a lot of research leading up to tonight's stream. I will give you information, but that's really what I'm doing more or less. This is not an expert's opinion necessarily. So we'll be going over pretty much all the position groups of being worth mentioning. And we will also do a mock draft at the end of the episode. And then we also have James in between. He's going to do a live breakdown of Sauce, Ahmad, Gardner of Cincinnati, cornerback. So if you're into those types of things, hope you stick around, and we hope you enjoy the show. Without any further ado, let's go to the mailbag number 1. Don't forget to follow me on Twitter, guys, if you'd like the idea of being able to submit a question right off the top of the show. I know a lot of people, they might want to watch like the first 30 minutes live, and then they'll watch it afterwards. So if that's something that you're into, go ahead and submit the mailbag questions to me on Twitter. This one is from Straight 100's Jets, and he says, congrats, the Bengals are an amazing 3-year turnaround from 2-14 in 2019 to Super Bowl 56 in 2022. What do you think the Jets could learn from the Bengals turnaround? And then he also adds, what do the Jets need to do for them to have similar success in 2023? And quite honestly, what about success in 2022? What do we need to do to be able to live up to that? So I'm going to go to Mike first. Mike, what do you think? What do the Jets need to do to be able to start flipping this around? And again, he's asking, what can they learn from the Bengals' quick turnaround?
Yeah, I think we talked about it on this channel, all three of us, and the chat has engaged. The Jets have had a bad habit of reacting too quickly on emotion, either based on media pressure or based on popular opinion. And I think what you see with the Bengals is they had a game plan from the beginning. They rallied behind the front office, behind who they have there. I don't know who the GM there for the Bengals is, so I can't pull that name out of my hat. But
sure.
From what I have understood, based on the different media that I've covered in the last couple of weeks following them, just it's a chess game, and they played that game really well since 2019, putting pieces in play, gathering resources, being smart with the cap that they have, and obviously the pinnacle of that was a gutsy move and taking Joe Burrow number 1. Not to say it wasn't deserving of being number 1 overall. But, there's a lot of pressure with that number 1 pick, especially, Trevor Lawrence is probably going to face some of that, given the fact that he threw, 15 picks. I can't remember the exact number. I not to the extent where he's going to face bust or anything or the reputation of a bust, but, there's a lot of pressure on those number 1 picks overall. And, of course, Joe went down with that ACL tear. And, of course, that there was probably I don't follow high media, but I have to imagine that the media was just like, oh, is he ever going to get back to a number 1 pick, worthy of a pick of number 1? So, not letting popular opinion or emotion deviate from their 5-year plan. And I really do think they had a 5-year plan, and I think they're ahead of schedule. I think if they were to really pull their onion back, I bet you that front office didn't expect to be in this position probably until next year or the following year. And I think they were probably pleasantly surprised the way this team is rallying, and especially with the coaching staff they have in place. So I just think that they never deviated from a plan. I think the Jets sometimes have a plan, but then we deviate based on outside perspectives and things like that. And so I hope we can stick behind Saleh. Obviously he faced his own fair share of criticism. I've done my own criticism at the offensive coordinator and our defensive coordinator. So, I got to look myself in the mirror and be like, this is part of a larger scheme. But really just don't need to listen to me. That's the biggest thing.
I thought that was a good answer, actually. I wasn't thinking that, but the idea that they didn't deviate from the plan, there were some fans actually that were thinking that Zach Taylor could be on the hot seat if he didn't make some noise this year. That was actually a conversation I think I saw. So, James, any thoughts on, how do the Jets replicate something similar? We're not expecting a Super Bowl appearance next year or even in 2023 maybe, but how do we capture some of that fire and bottle it up?
Yeah, so I think it's two things. So I kind of boiled it down to one piece on offense and one piece on defense, right? Obviously, piece one on offense is QB1, right? I mean, Joe Burrow is obviously super talented and he's very smart. But there is an aspect about his attitude, his calmness, right? That it's probably hard to replicate. But one of the things we saw from Zach last year was when he seemed to slow things down, when he seemed to calm down, his play elevated. And so you have to have that guy back there that is willing to just kind of stay calm and lead the troops. And that's what Joe Burrow does. He distributes the ball to his playmakers, which we'll get into tonight. That has to be a factor in this whole thing because you don't want to replicate what the Bengals are doing with their offensive line. Right, that's part of it that we do not want to replicate. Like a lot of people say, okay, it's a copycat league. I'm not copycatting what the Bengals are doing
the offensive
with their
line.
Teams aren't going to start neglecting the offensive line and say, well, if we get a quarterback like Joe Burrow and a wide receiver like Jamar Chase, if our quarterback gets sacked 9 times in a playoff game, maybe we'll win. Like that's not the recipe that you want, but there is something to say about how Joe Burrow has handled that offensive line with the ability to get hit that many times, get back up, and still be able to get the ball to his playmaker. So for one on offense, it's all about obviously developing Zach Wilson. We got to get him the weapons, and I think the offensive line is further along than the Bengals is. I think we all kind of feel that way right now. And so you have to be able to get this guy some playmakers. You have to put points up on the board in this league. If you're down 21-3 to the Kansas City Chiefs, you have to have the ability to put points on the board. And then second, really for the Bengals on defense, turnovers. You have to have guys that are opportunistic on the defensive side of the football. A guy like Jesse Bates that is back there, if he has the ability to pick off a football, it's going the other way, and he's giving his offense a chance. He's getting Joe Burrow back on the field. That's something we have not seen yet from this Jets defense. And it's been 1 year. But we had 7 interceptions this year, and 2 of them were by defensive linemen. So you have to turn the ball over. It can't be continuous drives of 10 minutes, 7 minutes, 6 minutes, and then they kick a field goal and we clap because they didn't give up a touchdown. You have to force turnovers. So the Jets have to bring in playmakers on the defensive side that can turn the ball over, and I think that's when you start moving in the right direction. And the Bengals are kind of just they're hitting all strides right now, so it's kind of fun to watch because I don't think we expected it. I guess for lack of a better term. So
listen, luck in the playoffs is 100% part of the formula. You have to have a little bit of lady luck on your side to get to the Super Bowl. You think back to even the Patriots when their whole dynasty began, the Tuck Rule game, like that was a lot of luck. That could have easily 100% been called a fumble. We all know that. It's just luck. There's some things that you have to have go your way. And I think that's what we're seeing a little bit with the Bengals. Not saying they're lucky necessarily. They are a really good football team. They're very deserving of being in the Super Bowl. But things have gone their way in the playoffs, and that's sometimes that's what it takes. All right. Good stuff. We'll go to our second mailbag. We only have a couple tonight, which is nice. This next one is from Cali Jets, and he says, sounds like the Jets will have around $60 million in free agency, give or take. So he says, so probably have room for about 2 big signings. Which 2 position groups would you spend the big money on? And he says, potentially give me a couple of hypothetical names. So let's do the first part of his question. Let's just say, where are we splashing money on in free agency with 2 positions? We have a general idea of what players are out there. James, you went last, so you can go first this time. What position or which player would you splash some money on?
So I would splash some money at the safety spot, as hypercritical as that sounds, because we just traded a guy like a Jamal Adams. But I think we kind of highlighted 2 guys last week. that could potentially hit the market, right? We don't know who's actually going to hit the market this time around, but those center fielder type of guys that we really think would be able to sit in these zones for the Jets, play that one higher, or be be part of that two high group there that could get their hands on football. Marcus Williams, Jesse Bates, etc. So I think safety is definitely a spot that they would throw some money around. And second one. So I guess maybe this is I'm going to go down here. Tight end is the other one, right? Tight end.
Sure.
But if I could just throw a second one in there.
Sure.
If we do, I guess it's technically free agency in a sense. If we do trade for one of these wide receivers, they're going to have expiring contracts. The Calvin Ridleys, the DK Metcalfs. They're gonna need to be paid some money. So I would go safety, the tight end spot, and then secondary to that tight end spot. If we do make a big trade, we're gonna wind up having to shell out some money for a wide receiver, and I'm fine with that.
Yep. Okay, great. Mike, 2 position groups that you would consider splashing a little cheddar on top of.
Yeah, I agree with James on that. I'm not gonna. I think he has the same side, or I have the same side as him in the sense that there's a lot of great secondary prospects in free agency. I would obviously safety for sure, but also I would expand out to even corners that are out there. Nothing against the corners that we have, and definitely against Bryce Hall. It's just that it's just to James's point. You need a defense to win championships, and you need those turnovers to position your offense to take to get the upper end on the other team. So I think secondary for sure. I'll keep that blanket, whether it's safety or whether it's another position back there in the defensive backs. Wide receiver for sure. You got some huge names. Obviously, some of them probably won't hit the market, but if they did, it just would be crazy not to take advantage, especially when we got 2 of our receivers on the up for free agency, Keelan Cole and Jamison Crowder. So if there's a big name that we can land and we can kind of rotate the talent, so to speak, then I think and then tight end, of course. I mean, of course, we have tight end on the topic list as far as rookies in the Senior Bowl, but I mean, we talked about a few names last week that definitely piqued our interest, and I think we know that position has been invisible for Zach, and it's one that needs to be rectified immediately.
All right. I'm actually going to waver a little bit on my tight end, the doling out of the money. I'm starting to wonder if we go for still get a veteran in free agency. I'm not sure I'm willing to do I'm a little nervous about spending 11 to 12 mil on Dalton, even though I think he is worth it. I'm really falling in love with some tight ends. I'm very much excited about, and I think a lot of Jets fans are. I'm very much in that boat, though. I'm very excited about the prospects that are out there. It's really deep. There's a lot of guys that I really like, and so I'm starting to wonder if maybe we hold back on tight end in free agency, minus picking up maybe one guy. Njoku, Hayden Hurst if he's available. I'm not even sure. I think I saw his name thrown out there. Go get the veteran in that mid-tier. And we are trying to build through the draft, so it's a nice balance. And again, I think balance in this regard is important. So get your veteran, get some get some tight ends in the draft. I think that's a very important way to do this. And then, like you guys have talked about, get some guys in the back end. I would like to see maybe us go and buy Marcus Williams. I'd like to go get his services on this team. And I think, again, I think I said it last time, there is a difference between drafting a safety in the top 10, top 15 versus going out there and getting a veteran safety in free agency, because you're giving them a contract. In all likelihood, that's going to be the only contract to give them. So that's it. They're, 3, 4, 5 year contract. When they're done, you're saying goodbye probably. But with the draft pick in the first round, safety, it would be foolish to draft that player and not be at least inclined to consider reneging and re-signing them. So that's my view on it. I am willing to give out some money to Marcus Williams. So those will be... Oh, and offensive line. Sorry. offensive line and safety. Go get James Daniels or Laken Tomlinson. Go get a guard in the free agent market. All right, let's move on. Good question from Cali Jets. Thank you for submitting it. Let's go to tight end talk. We just talked about them, so let's go ahead and let's follow it up. Green Go from Twitter. He says, if Schultz gets tagged or even re-signed, which veteran tight ends would you sign to pair with a rookie tight end in rounds 2 or 3? Let me, because I already said it. I said Njoku. Is there any other names out there that you guys have on your radar for tight end? I know it's a little bit on the spot here. I don't actually have the list in front of me as far as who's available. But personally, Njoku to me makes the most sense. He's not a bad blocker. He is a guy that can that moves very well, can stretch the seam. Do you guys have anybody else that you're thinking of in free agency?
I'm pretty sure Gerald Everett is going to be on the market.
Yep.
So I think that would be a nice little veteran add there too if we don't get a big fish type of deal.
Isn't OJ Howard on Tampa?
He could be.
Yeah.
Yep. So that's another interesting name too. I keep forgetting about Gerald Everett, and he would not be a bad move at all. Certainly not a long-term answer, but a good short-term answer if we are drafting a tight end, which, again, I can't imagine a scenario where we don't at least add one tight end in this draft class. Yeah. All right, let's move. That was a short one because we just talked about it a little bit. And this is the last mailbag, and then we will get to our comments, our live viewers. So if you're feeling neglected out there, don't feel neglected for long. We're coming to you. This is from Kev Guy, also from Twitter. He says, would you rather trade assets for the proven wide receivers, such as a Ridley, a Cooper, a Metcalf, whatever you want to call them? Would you sign a stud receiver in free agency, an Allen Robinson, a Mike Williams, Devonta Adams? You could even throw Chris Godwin in that conversation. Or are you interested in drafting the young gun in the first round? Burks, Wilson, Jameson Williams, if we trade back or up from the second. London, the USC wide receiver. I really like that question. That's probably the best one, I think, of the night because it's kind of wide open. Let's go to Mike. You can go first. What would you prefer? Trade for the top guy, sign somebody in free agency, or go for the draft?
That is a tough question. It's I don't want to be a cop out. I guess it depends on the deal. It depends on the money and what the trade requires that for those stud receivers. We talked
assume that it's like a nothing crazy, but you have to pay. You have to give up assets.
I wouldn't give up draft picks. So there's that. I don't know. I don't know how that factors. So if I'm not getting those guys without giving up our first rounders this year's or next year's or the following years, then I'm probably going to take the fresh talent coming out of the draft at that point, or I'm going to look in the draft for that. Our team has suffered from not being deep enough, and this era of our jet team is the youngest and somewhat the most exciting because they're going to hopefully only get better over each season. So I don't think I would take, for example, I think it's LA. If I remember I think the stat is they don't draft in the first round until 2024. I believe that's the stat I've heard.
Mm-hmm.
So that to me is a scary situation because I don't know. They just right now are trying to get our sea legs when it comes to season after season of consistency. To go all out and bet the farm and to bring in a talent that we don't know we can maximize and to potentially suffocate us over multiple years. I don't really like the sound of that. So although I would love to see DK Metcalf in a Jet jersey running down the field, I'm not willing to give up some picks for that. So
that's insufferably cautious.
Yeah.
I'm just messing with
It
you.
is.
James, what would you do? Trade for one, sign one, or draft one?
So, so Grant, I'm looking at Grant's comment here. He kind of makes a good point that it may need to be all of them,
Yeah.
but for me, I would draft one. I would draft one, and I guess we're talking about the big fish, right? So it's either, where does that potential number one, 1A, 1B come from? And I really do think that we're in a position with the 2 first-round picks to take the guy that we really like at 10, right? If there's a guy out there, a Traylon Burks where, they feel like they can move him around and, Deebo Samuel's name is going to be mentioned all offseason because now everyone's going to be looking for Deebo Samuel. As a Traylon Burks kind of fit that mold of what we're looking to do at the wide receiver spot, because for everybody, it's entirely different what that looks like. Jalen Waddle went before a Devontae Smith, and certain people thought Devontae Smith is the Heisman Trophy winner, but the Dolphins were looking for something that Jalen Waddle had. So you have the ability at that wide receiver spot. There are a ton of different flavors. I would go in the first round with a wide receiver, and I feel pretty good saying that because I don't think I would have said that in past years.
Okay. There's a lot of polar opposites going on in the chat, and people are saying stay away from a first round wide receiver. Like Kev Chatter right here, he's saying none of the above. He says draft one in the second round. Go find yourself a T. Higgins in the second round. And we could do that, I guess. That would be fine. But I do think that there is something to be said for going and getting a bona fide stud for Zach Wilson to throw to. Somebody, and this is where I'm going to go with this. So my thought all offseason has been that Zach needs somebody that is experienced and that he can trust in tough situations to throw the football to. And right now, this team doesn't really have that wide receiver. And if you go draft somebody in the first round, I'm not going to cry and I'm not going to be upset, and I will be very, very excited. But in my mind, I'm just thinking about the jump from year one to year two. Expectations will be higher for Zach in his second year, and it will help him tremendously if he has somebody that already has been in the NFL, is established, knows what he's doing. Mr. Typey Type, what the hell are you doing over there?
Oh, sorry.
So, long story short, I'm actually leaning towards trading for a wide receiver if I had to pick one of them, just because I do feel the need for Zach to have somebody just a little bit more reliable. Rookie wide receivers, we've seen them the last 2 years. They've broken the record every year. It's ridiculous. Justin Jefferson broke the single season record for receiving for rookies. Jamar Chase back-to-back years. I mean, that's incredible. I said it last offseason. I didn't think that anybody would break that for a long time, and of course it happened the year right after. So can it happen? Yes, you can go get somebody that's a stud in the draft, but me personally, I'm leaning trade. I want to go find somebody that's a veteran that's just bona fide already. So that's my answer. We've got the chat is just crawling, teeming with all kinds of questions, and it's going to be hard to keep up with you guys today. I'm going to do my very, very best. But there's so many different takes. It's crazy. Garrett Wilson at 4. Would you draft an unknown like Garrett Wilson at 10, but not trade for DK with 10? And that's the thing. Like, I like Garrett Wilson a hell of a lot, and he's my 1A to Burks' 1B. But I don't know, man. I feel like if you're drafting Wilson at 10, would you not be willing to give up a 10th overall pick for a DK Metcalf? And I think that's a hard question to answer right now. I think personally I would lean DK, and there are people that vehemently disagree with that. But at the same time, there are people that do agree that getting somebody like him would be pretty nice to be able to throw to. Oh my, it's going to be a busy one tonight, I can already tell. We are done with the mailbag, and so we're going to get to the topic at hand. Guys, feel free to continue leaving your comments in here, and I am going to do my best to read them Again, if you want a question read, it's the easiest way is to submit a super chat. You can literally give me 50 cents, I'm pretty sure. So, if you want your question read, guaranteed, I'll let you know that's the best way to do it. But no worries. I will do my best to read the comments as we go. All right. Senior Bowl time, fellas. We got tight ends, offensive linemen. To reduce the stress on anybody, when it's your turn, perhaps we just go one name at a time. And you can discuss what you like about them, why they might be a good fit, or maybe even why they might not be a good fit. If there's something that's concerning to you about that player. I have a couple players like that, actually, in my notes here. So, Matthias Simon, thanks for agreeing with me. It's always nice to be agreed with and to be clearly named the better and the superior, opinion on the channel. I appreciate that. Carmela's saying only trenches in the first round. It's going to be a wild draft. Just when you thought it would be easy because we have our quarterback, label, the drafted quarterback. I'll mail you a quarter, answer my questions. I'll do my best, dude. I'll do my best. All right. So, Mike, you're going to go first here. We can just do both. We'll lump them all together if you want to talk about a tight end and an O-line. We can mix it all up. So in the chat, and I will be looking for it while these goons are talking, leave who you like at tight end, who you like at offensive line in the Senior Bowl. Who are you looking forward to watching during the game? Who have you already been watching during these practices? Because they are actively practicing. Mikey, who's your first guy, tight end or O-lineman?
I gotta go Trey McBride.
All right.
It's a name.
Tell me about
it's a name. That's a name that both of you gentlemen have been talking about. The chat's been talking about. He's got the size. He's a great route runner, which is something that Tyler Croft can't do. He's got great hands, and the best part is, I need to look at more tape, but the guy can block, which opens up a running game at that point. So it's a dual weapon. He's either going to get you in the backfield, or he's going to open up a lane. Especially not knowing where our line is. Obviously, hopefully it continues to progress. But if we have any injuries or if there's any shaky ground, Trey, that 6'4", 260 going downfield is pretty awesome and a pretty enticing situation for Zach Wilson. So Trey's definitely at the top of my list for tight end. Another name out there that I was just reading about is Jalen Watermeyer from Texas A&M.
He's not playing in the Senior Bowl though, buddy. He's in the draft though.
No, true. I'm just throwing out another name that, as far as tight end is concerned, but I'll stop there. Trey's my first name.
Okay. Yep. Anything you want to add on top of that? Of course, you're welcome to, James. I might even throw a little bit on Trey McBride after you if you go.
Yeah. It's kind of hard not to mention Trey. I think he's kind of the premier guy that Jeff, and it was really exciting when we found out that the Jets coaching staff would be coaching Trey McBride on the national team. Are we the national team?
We are the national team.
We're the national team.
I believe we're not the America team. Americans.
I think it's American.
It's weird. They need to come up with something better than that. American and national is just weird.
And he weighed in at the Senior Bowl at 249. And so I did write down there. I was wondering if he plays a bit heavier than that because he looks like he's bigger than 249. He kind of has that H-back look to him, but solid build, aggressive nature, willing blocker. Kind of an odd piece that he had 90 catches this year and 1 touchdown. So I'm not exactly sure what happened there, but and not to say it's a bad thing. He caught 90 passes. It's not a bad thing.
Yeah.
But but my guy at tight end is, and
don't do it.
I don't have him over Trey McBride, so I don't want to act like I have him ranked over Trey McBride. And John, it's not. I know who you are going to say.
Okay.
It's not.
Perfect.
So my guy that I really, really like is Charlie Kohler out of Iowa State. He weighed in, measured in 6'6", 256. He's a big dude. He gets in the end zone. He's that red zone threat, big target. He's got 23 touchdowns over the course of his career, and had career highs this year, over 700 yards. Monster game against Oklahoma this past year. He went for 12, 152 and a touchdown against Oklahoma's defense, who was a lot better. They're not really crazy defensively, but when you're watching him, he's a bit lighter on his feet than I was expecting him to be. When you see a guy that big, you're like, all right, well, can he move? Is he going to be able to create separation? What's he going to be able to do route running wise at the next level? He's pretty light on his feet. He has pretty good balance, pretty good control, and really reliable hands. So for him, I think it's a guy that, we talk about, okay, when we get that big stud, if we haul in the big fish, and a guy like Charlie sitting there in the 4th round, or one of those later picks, I think it'd be an excellent addition to the tight end room. I think he's the guy I'm looking at this weekend.
Perfect. I didn't realize he was that big and had that much production. That's pretty awesome. 6'6", 256, is that what you said?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so that's a pretty big dude. One of the biggest tight ends in the class, too. So my guy is Jeremy Ruckert. I've been making basically memes of him. I use Pulp Fiction. If you know the famous scene in the restaurant near the end of the movie where he's got his wallet in the bag and he says, "Go in and get my wallet." He says, "Which one is it?" The bad mother effer. I made a one with Ruckert's face on it, so I put his face on the wallet. That's it. That's my bad mother effer. Anyway, so Jeremy Ruckert, you look at the stats, and this is why I'm kind of happy about him, is I look at the stats, and you're like, wait a minute, what's going on? The production's not there. This is like the 5th option in the Ohio State offense. There were too many mouths to feed in that offense, and quite frankly, he just wasn't utilized that much. And Dane Brugler of The Athletic, I think I'm saying his name correctly, I found a clip of him talking about Jeremy Ruckert as a guy that's a really, really good fit for the New York Jets. This is not a Darren Waller. This is not a Travis Kelce. This is not a guy that's going to wow you with the ball in his hands after the catch necessarily, but he is a guy that can block. Big dude, 6'5", 250. And it's not really important when you're evaluating guys or when you're talking about guys, but the fact that he is from New York, he grew up a Jets fan, I think that to be pretty cool. And again, this is a guy who excels in the red zone, which I think we really desperately need. Our red zone offense needs to be better. It's one of the crucial elements to winning and losing in the National Football League. I think a lot of people will point to turnovers. I think 3rd down percentage, red zone efficiency are one of the big ones as well. He's going to help us with those things. And again, in my perfect scenario here, Jeremy Ruckert isn't even really the number 1 tight end option. And that's what, to me, gets me so excited thinking about the draft, is we could go and add 2 tight ends for now and for the future and have a little bit of variety there. Ruckert as the mainstay blocker, not the lead blocker, but basically like a guy you're counting on in blocking, and then a Trey McBride or a Charlie Kohler or an Isaiah Likely. I know some people are saying he can't block, but perhaps we don't need all of our tight ends to block. Maybe we can get our tight ends out there that can receive and can make plays with the football. So Ruckert's pretty high on my list. Matthias Simon says that he's going to fall. He's going to fall to the late 4th, early 5th. Dude, we don't know anything about where these guys are going. I heard somebody saying 3rd round for Ruckert. So it's going to be up, down, all around, and it's going to be that way during the draft too. We're going to think we know going into the draft, and it's just going to be chaos during. So my eyes are hurting having to look at that big ugly crimson red. All right. So we've talked about 3 tight ends here. I wanted to circle back, if I may, on Trey McBride. So he's actually 6'3" as well. He's not the tallest guy. I don't know if he excels at blocking, but like you said, Mike, he is a capable blocker. And again, just think about the pairing of him and a Ruckert in this offense. I think it's pretty nice. I know a lot of people point to the Patriots with Aaron Hernandez and Gronkowski. That's pretty hard to live up to and to match. But again, I like the idea of having some variety with our tight end room. Any other names you guys want to mention at tight end? I got Isaiah Likely on my list, but you can go if you got one, James.
I got one more. Oh, sorry.
Yeah, Mike.
Go ahead, Mike.
Sorry, the guy from UCLA. My apologies. Gray Dulcich. Let me make sure. I'm looking for my notes here. Yeah, I don't know if I got his last name right, but definitely I have noted. I think what I'm reading is a potential sleeper, so definitely something where scouts will be keeping an eye on his performance during the Senior Bowl. 42 catches, 725 yards, 5 touchdowns, 6'4", 250. So I don't know a lot other than apparently he's got great just natural athleticism. Apparently he's really kind of been that kind of burst onto the scene, so to speak.
He's got great Weird Al Yankovic hair. His hair is very curly and bouncy.
They say he's got a wingspan, so apparently apparently they feel like his arm length to leg to like the rest of his torso is apparently freakish. So I looked at a few pieces of his tape. Definitely gonna look at some more of that, and I'll be keeping an eye on that name as well.
Sounds good. Rusty Spooner, thanks for throwing another name in there. I have looked a little bit at Cade Otton. Yeah. He's not on my short list, but that does not mean that I won't be keeping my eyes peeled during the game for sure. Any other names you got for us, Mr. James?
Yeah, I got one. And Cade, I don't think Cade's a senior.
Okay. So not he's in the draft, but not a senior.
He's in the draft, but I think he came out early. I'm pretty sure he had an injury last year that cut his season short. But he's going to wind up. Yeah, he's on that short list of tight ends that are going to potentially go early for where tight ends go. But I put Jake Ferguson on my list from Wisconsin too. 6'4", 244. So a little bit on the lighter end. A little bit of a slimmer look, not to say 6'4", 244 is slim, but he is a little bit of a slimmer build when you kind of look at him. And I don't know too much about him, but when you see Wisconsin and tight end, not to say they're a factory, but you see the offense that they run, and you're like, okay. They're going to be running quite a bit, and so is it a intriguing late round option if he can contribute blocking wise. So I did add Jake Ferguson to my list, and then just a quick shout out to Jeremy Ruckert, who is a fellow Long Island native. So pretty cool to see him in the draft. As someone who played high school football on Long Island, Jeremy was also the number 1 tight end recruit coming out of high school in his class, and he didn't get that designation from blocking. He's a big dude, and he built himself along with the strength and conditioning team over at Ohio State. They built him into this mold here of this big kind of freakishly strong willing blocker. He was that receiving threat coming out of high school, the hands. So he has super untapped potential, and his blocking will allow him to get on that field earlier, and then you could maybe start to unlock some other parts of his game they're there. They just it didn't come out at Ohio State because he is going to be that lower end option based on the Chris Olave, the Garrett Wilson. The other guy that he's got the long name that went off in that bowl game, Smith Niguba, or however you say it. So Jeremy Ruckert, a big time talent that I think is just untapped potential.
For sure. And there was like a write-up on Jeremy Ruckert talking about how he basically put people on posters with some of his catches. Like he really can go up and grab it hand. He's got the ability to have some spectacular catches. Good stuff. Let's see. Rusty Spooner's talking about some more of these Wisconsin Badgers, some other players. He talks about a linebacker as well. Good stuff, Rusty. Thank you for telling us. Just want to talk a little bit more about Isaiah Likely. Everything that I'm reading about him actually says that he could be a pretty good blocker, and he was a big-time blocker for Coastal Carolina. Is that correct? Can't remember. So they used him as their predominant blocker when they did wide receiver screens. He was the guy that was hitting. I don't know what the proper word is, but the guy who's supposed to be responsible for making a play on the wide receiver. He's the one that's responsible for blocking that guy, and they used him in a lot of varied ways in blocking schemes. So I do think that although he is a little bit slight, 240 pounds. The upside that you're getting with the receiving game, I think, is well worth it. And again, you look at the production, and one of my favorite things to talk about is guys that steadily improve and grow over their college careers and even in their NFL careers. This guy went from literally 100 yards his freshman year, 400 his sophomore, 600 his junior year, and then 900 his senior year. So gradual improvement, and you saw touchdown production. He had a 99-yard touchdown last season in college football. So is he Kyle Pitts? No, he's not Kyle Pitts, but he's really quite exceptional. And again, pairing him up with a guy like a Ruckert, I think is very highly attractive. You get your guy who can be the, maybe the 1A receiving option to a Ruckert's 1B receiving option. And again, variety, man. I think that's important on offense, having guys that can do different things. So, yes, that's one of the games that I've watched of him. Grant Rood was Ruckert versus Clemson last year. He was killing it. I mean, he looked absolutely studly. And when I found out that he wasn't draft eligible or wasn't going to come out last year, I was depressed. I was like, I got to wait a friggin' year for this guy? Oh, man. SG31 Black, it's been a minute. He says he scored on my guy, Andrew Booth Jr. Yep, the corner from Clemson, definitely. Matthias Simon talks about Jalen Weidermeyer from Texas A&M. He says he's a real good one, but he's not in the Senior Bowl. This guy can do it all. Yeah, I feel like because of the Senior Bowl, maybe people are not talking enough about him. He may end up being in that conversation for tight end one, with Trey McBride. But there's so many tight ends. There's just too many options. There's so many guys to talk about. We can't possibly talk about all of them. So, offensive linemen. Anybody want to go first? I got a couple. I got guards. That's all I've got. I didn't do any tackles.
Well, I got a guy who could do both center and guard, and that's Cole Strange.
He's a name. A lot of people were talking about him today. I didn't want to interrupt you, but I just wanted to say there's a lot of people high on him right now. Yeah,
definitely a mountain. 6'6". I think he's over 300 pounds, at least in the articles I read. I think played guard at his time with Chattanooga, but might be playing center for the bowl. So that's something that's interesting. I don't know if anyone else has picked up on that, but some skepticism on the level of competition he's played against, but apparently he's great, especially with adding improvements to running game. He's definitely a guy who can go downfield and make a difference as it pertains to opening up holes for whoever we have, Michael Carter. Cole Strange is definitely a guy who's appears to have a lot of versatility and will definitely be someone I'll take a look at.
He's having a really good week, too. That's the other thing. Oh, God. We have Trade Becton comment in the chat. That's not going to happen. And I'm going to tell you, I'm going to a little commercial break here. Feel however you want about Becton, but I'm going to tell you why it's not happening. And it's very, very simple. The Jets would not be making the comments that they're making in public in front of all of the world to hear and see if they were at all remotely interested in trading him. Why would they say, well, you know what, Becton, he's really got to work his ass off this year because he doesn't have a spot. He's got to earn his spot. Why would they make those comments out in the public to the media and then say, well, let's try and trade him? He ain't going anywhere. And you can be disappointed and you can be mad about him. They are not going to trade Mekhi Becton. I've been wrong before, but I feel pretty confident on this one. If they felt like they wanted to trade him, they wouldn't have said diddly, you know what, during these meetings during the Senior Bowl. They wouldn't have brought it up. And if they didn't want to talk about it, they could have easily said something like, listen, we're here for the Senior Bowl. Like, that's the conversation we want to be talking about. We want to talk about these players. They've earned the right to be at this game. Let's give them their opportunity. And then it could have been done. But they didn't. They used it as an opportunity to light the flyer right under his biscuit. And so Mekhi Becton is going to have to earn his spot. He's going to have to earn back the left tackle spot or get a job as the right tackle. And I'm fine with that. I got no problem with that. All right, James, O-lineman.
Yeah, my O-line guy is Zion Johnson from Boston College. Guard, 6'2", weighed in at 314.
Zion Johnson, you son of a bitch. All right, go ahead. He's one of my favorites.
Yeah, I feel like he's right. I mean, the guy, right? If we're gonna pass on going the offensive line route in the first round, and he somehow winds up at that early second round, he's a big, strong, low to the ground, powerful. His run blocking is his kind of is his forte there, and he's got some he's got some plays on tape that he just destroys guys in the run game. You feel like he's a Joe Douglas guy, right? Joe Douglas catches him at the Senior Bowl, kind of putting in kind of the the work in the run game. I feel like that's where there's an aspect of kind of falling in love with a player where you feel like, hey, do we move up and back into the late first round to get a guy like that? If you see what you like at the Senior Bowl, because the tape's gonna show kind of everything. But if he if he compounds that with a big performance in the Senior Bowl, I think he's a really good candidate to fill that guard spot for the Jets and be able to play right away.
Awesome. Yeah, and I don't know if you said this, and I do apologize if that's the case. Great scheme fit. Versatile as well. That's another thing that I've talked about with the infamous Tyler Linderbaum. Everybody loves him. I'm not saying he can't play guard, but right now there's questions about whether or not he could play guard at the NFL level. Zion Johnson is... Oh, sorry. Zion Johnson's definitely... No, you're good. Zion Johnson's been taking reps at center during this week of practice at the Senior Bowl. So he is going to be a versatile guy in the National Football League. I don't think there's any question about that. And you're kidding yourself if you say that Joe Douglas does not value that at a very, very high level. Every move, he talks about it. When he makes these draft picks, when he signs these guys in free agency, he makes it a point to say they are versatile and we really value that. So, all right, let's go to my guy. And this is a guy that I saw in the chat earlier. This is guard Ed Ingram from LSU. So he actually had some off-the-field stuff happen in 2018 and did not play. And since then, he has not had a single issue. Teams are going to look into that, what happened, his side of the story, his coach's side of the story. So is there some homework that needs to be done on Ed Ingram? Maybe. And I don't know all the details with that off-the-field thing. But it was something that, transpired, and it's something to consider. So one thing that I will just point out here is that he is a scheme versatile dude. And I talked about it with Zion Johnson as well. This is a guy who can be, play in any scheme. He can play power. He can play, this wide zone running scheme that we're going to run. And it's in the LSU. I'm reading off my notes here, but LSU has, some zone principles in their running game that they do at LSU. So he's going to be able to fit in really nicely. And they talked about, something that he could use improvement on is timing his hands a little bit better in pass protection. They say that he maybe is engaging the defensive line too fast, putting his hands out there too quickly, and then they're able to use their hands to get him off real quick and basically just destroy a block So is he the perfect prospect? And none of these guys are, but no, he's not. But I like him, scheme versatile. Will be able to play guard for the Jets and probably be a starter right away. And I don't think you'd have to draft him real early. I think you could potentially even get this guy maybe in the 3rd round if he slips a little bit. So that's attractive to me, getting offensive linemen in the draft. So I've got Ed Ingram on my list. And Matthias Simon, he throws in a nice comment right here. He says, this is one deep O-line class. Yeah, there's a bunch of guys. Interior, there's outside guys as well. And versatile, too. There's a lot of versatility in this class as well. All right, cool. Ooh, excuse me. Let's go on and let's move on to our next position group. And we're going to do corners and safeties. We talked about the need for, some playmakers in the back end, some guys that can create turnovers. We know that pass rush helps with that, but there is something to be said for having secondary players that can make plays on the ball and kind of not necessarily do it on their own, but having the ball skills to be able to do it on a consistent basis. Anybody on your list you want to throw out first, James? I think Mike went first last time.
Yeah, so the first guy I want to throw out is Jalen Pitre out of Baylor. He's a guy, first of all, Baylor is great defensively, so he's a safety also. He's a safety build, right? 5'10", 196. But very physical. Saw him actually in a small clip today in one-on-ones with Trey McBride. Trey McBride caught the ball, but it was a very physical rep. It was neat to watch. But Baylor, I kind of look at them as a team that is very sound defensively. I think he would be a guy that would come in and understand his assignments, what he needs to do, play sound football. Not an overbearing athlete in terms of size or anything like that. But the stat line for him last year was bananas. 75 total tackles. That's, from the safety spot, that's pretty good. But 17 and a half tackles for loss, 3.5 sacks, 2 interceptions.
17 and a half tackles for a loss?
Yeah.
Wait, what position does he play?
He's
safety. Okay,
safety,
perfect.
Linebacker hybrid type of guy. 3.5 sacks, 2 interceptions, 7 passes defense, 3 forced fumbles, and 3 fumble recoveries. So kind of all over the place, physical football player. So I kind of am gravitating towards those guys that are around the football. Obviously he's doing something right out there. I haven't really watched too much film on him, but he's someone who is clearly doing something right. He's around the football, and he's a physical player coming from a defense where he's going to be well coached. And so he definitely made the list. I'm pretty excited to see him for the rest of the week.
There are some players that just seem to be a magnet. Like that's just like that's how their careers go, and it's just whether or not you want them to be impacting the play, and somehow a way or another they just impact it. Mike, who you got on your short list here? I got a couple of guys.
It's in the chat. It's a name that stood out to me right away. Roger McCreary, Auburn. Guy just looks like a beast. I think had 2021. I was looking at the stats and I had to read them twice just because he had 30 pass defended in 39 games. So there's that. First team All SEC. I think he has every skill set that you need. Complete cover corner, which is something we desperately need. I feel bad just because I know our young guys are doing everything they can to get better. But, I mean, seeing a talent like this who can also tackle, the guy's an outstanding tackler.
Yes, very good tackler.
makes all the difference.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of people have him in the top 20. Will be a top 20 selection. I can't wait to see him play. I saw a couple comments in the chat where he looked good in one-on-ones. I'm really excited about this guy.
He's somebody that's going to be a riser, I feel like. So I was looking also at the stats. I read his draft profile as well, but 7 tackles for a loss at the cornerback. I guess he may have been playing safety that year because that is something that he can do. And not to get sidetracked here, but again, versatility is Joe Douglas's like calling card, defense and offense. And this is a guy who's played safety, can play outside corner, and can play inside corner as well. So you're talking about somebody that Joe Douglas can draft him and say, you know what, we want you at safety. Maybe that's something that they could do. He's 6 foot tall. He's 190 pounds. So it's not impossible to say that this guy's going to potentially, you know, depending on what team he goes to, could be moved around a little bit. And I like the idea of that. And, you know, in reading the report here, this is a guy with really, really high level of man coverage ability, which I think, James, you may have been the one to talk about it. We played more man situations in really important situations like third down than what we realized they were going to do. So when I read that, I thought to myself, okay, versatile. You know, he plays great man coverage. He has that ability. This is a guy who can play outside, inside. I don't know. I think this is a very much like a guy that would fit what we need and what we would want in a cornerback. So I completely agree with your pick there, Mike. Just a good football player. And again, 14 you said 30 over the 39 games pass defensed. He had 14 this past year. So he's getting his hands on the football and making a lot of plays. Speaking of getting your hands on the football, I got to talk about Kobe Bryant. Yeah, that sounds weird. I know. The Cincinnati Bearcat DB, Kobe Bryant with a C, kind of like Colby Cheese. This guy makes a lot of plays on the ball. Holy crap. So 35 passes defensed in his college career, 9 interceptions. The one knock on him that I'm reading right now is that he is not a very good tackler at all. Will use his shoulder, you know, to try and make shoulder tackles rather than wrapping up. So that could be a little bit of a concern with him. The ceiling that I'm seeing for him, and they're saying the ideal role here is a cornerback 2. So is he necessarily going to be like a stud on the outside? Maybe not. But I like him. I think that, again, you look at guys who can make plays on the football. He certainly fits the billing there. So he's definitely on my list. I do still have one more. James, do you have anybody else?
Yeah, I got one guy that, I mean, based on what they tell us, right? Probably a later round kind of pick there. Alante Taylor out of Tennessee, measured in 6 foot, 196, outside corner. But I looked at a few things because I kind of enjoy watching the SEC, and Vern, there you go, SEC. You know, just under 32-inch arms, so he's got some length to him. And he's pretty physical, so he comes up, makes big hits. Man coverage ability is there. Maybe not as consistent as some of these other high-end guys, but there is ability there. And he really, really competes. So when you're looking at those later round guys, you're looking also at guys that can potentially, you know, contribute on the special teams, right? Which is, now we know, and we've always known, but we kind of ignore it, is extremely important. It's a third of the entire football game. And so Alante Taylor, the way he competes, his energy, I really thought he would be a nice later round add if we're looking to add someone with, you know, cornerback skills that maybe can compete for a spot or depth wise, and then some special teams aspects also.
Sorry, I muted myself so I could type. I apologize. Good stuff. Yeah, so this is a really cool comment from Grant. He's talking about McCreary, excuse me. He says, Jets had quite a few split field concepts too. So half of the field would be in man and the other half would be in zone. He says McCreary allows you to mix that up whenever you want. He can play cornerback however you want him to. Again, you can move him outside, inside, and you're right. In the report that I've read, he is a guy that can play in any scheme. So the versatility is there. And again, he feels like a guy that the Jets will be probably very interested in. Whether or not they are going to be in a position to draft him is the question, yeah. I think. And that's the case with a lot of players. You're not necessarily in the strike zone for them. Before we keep going and before I give you my last DB here, I would ask if you wouldn't mind please hitting the like button. We would greatly appreciate that. That support means a lot. And just keep your eyes out for some videos this weekend. If you guys are watching, there will be some videos that'll upload on Saturday, Sunday. I actually took the day off on Friday. I'm going to just screw around at home and relax, have a day off, and I'm going to probably end up making like 18 million videos. So if you guys are interested, just check out some of the videos on the channel. I greatly appreciate it. All right. The last name I thought, the police are back after you. They're going to put the light back.
Where do you live at?
Yeah.
We got some issues going on. I'm going to go on mute.
So the last name I'm going to throw out there is Kirby Joseph from Illinois. He was a Big Ten, all Big Ten, and he's the first all Big Ten cornerback DB from Illinois since Vontae Davis. Sorry, that's a mouthful. He's the first all Big Ten DB there, and according to PFF, he was their number. And however you feel about PFF, if you love it, if you hate it, I apologize. They said he was the number one DB in all of college football during the regular season this past year. And there's a lot of reports out there that are saying he was the most improved player, and that's not just DBs, overall in all of college football. And again, I'm not a film junkie. I'm not watching film 24/7, but you take a look at the statistics there. He certainly had a huge, massive uptick in performance. Went from like 0 interceptions the year before all the way up to 5. He got a sack. He had some passes defensed, fumble recoveries. So he's kind of making a lot of plays last year that he wasn't years prior. I don't know where he's going to get drafted, and I'm not an expert. But the one thing I will say is it kind of concerns me is that he is one of those guys that just kind of popped. It's not to say that guys like that can't be good over a long period of time, but it just makes me nervous that he's only done it in one season, kind of like a flash in the pan type of situation. So from everything I'm reading, though, he's got a lot of range, a lot of speed, and could play safety for the New York Jets. Good size, 6 foot, 200 pounds. We need safeties pretty badly, as we all know. So, yeah. All right, let's see. I'm not razzing James here either. I honestly want to know what he thought about McCreary versus Bama. So he is genuinely asking.
Yeah, no. So listen. The guy is extremely talented in man coverage. I kind of stopped watching the Alabama because I was studying Jamison Williams for quite some time. He was kind of my draft crush, and not to say that went away or anything like that, but I was really considering making the push for him at 10. And Jamison Williams got ejected for targeting in the Auburn game. So I can't say I have a full breakdown of McCreary against Alabama, but the Alabama had an extremely difficult time throwing the ball against Auburn, gaining any kind of yards. So he's no doubt an extremely talented man coverage cornerback. If you look up, any kind of play, if you search him in Twitter, probably one of the first things that's going to come up is this play where, and it wasn't against Alabama, I'm not really sure who it was against, but there's a wide receiver screen to his side. He splits the blockers, and he actually picks off the screen, and he takes it to the house. So it's something where you guys definitely should kind of look it up there. Take a look at it for yourself. It's kind of a really impressive play where he doesn't just blow it up. He scores a touchdown on the play. So Grant, I promise I will look back at it and I will get you my thoughts more specifically there versus Alabama. But overall for him, just extremely talented in man coverage. He did have some of the shorter arms at the Senior Bowl. He's not like a T-Rex or anything, but but out of some of the bigger corners, he did have just over 29 inches in arms, and so that was kind of on the lower end of the spectrum there. But clearly gets his hands on football. So at the end of the day, sometimes you want to take production over killing the guy for his measurements.
All right, there you go. All righty, we're doing beautifully here. Let's go to our wide receivers and running backs. We're getting closer to that breakdown. If you guys are interested in watching James talk about Ahmad, Sauce Gardner, we will be doing that shortly here. We got wide receivers and running backs. I will say, and maybe I'm wrong in saying this, the wide receivers at the Senior Bowl, I'm not saying they're bad, but maybe not as big of a position like the tight ends and maybe some of the offensive linemen that we've talked about already. What are your thoughts on the wide receivers, Mike? Did you have anybody off the top of your head that you want to talk about? I got a couple.
I'll just start with one. Probably not the hottest name in the Senior Bowl, but Dotson out of Penn State. He's a smaller, small on the smaller side, but great, can play inside, outside, great route runner, great hands.
He's a really good route runner.
Yeah, made some big plays for the Lions. 91 catches, 1,100 yards, 12 touchdowns. We really take some pressure off Elijah Moore. I could see some counter criticism saying because we have Elijah, maybe we want to go with a different archetype of a wide receiver. But I just think that's natural talent is natural talent. And apparently they think he'd be a great scheme fit and a good pairing with Zach. So Dotson, I'll throw that out there for your guys' comment on that.
Yeah, he's another one of those gradually increasing, in production over the years. 200 yards his freshman year, 488 sophomore, 884 his junior, and then all the way up to nearly 1,200 in his senior year. Lots of production, gradually increasing and improving every year. I don't know. I was reading comments, and James, I want to hear about what your take is here on this, that the Jets should be getting wide receivers that can block. And I understand there's an importance with blocking. I was one of those people that talked about Denzel Mims' ability to be able to block, Corey Davis's ability to block, so I do get it. What are your thoughts on potentially adding somebody like a Garrett Wilson or a Jahan Dotson, and how it would impact the running game? Because the person that I was speaking with was very adamant that it would really negatively impact the running game. I don't know if I'm buying that completely, but what are your thoughts on it?
I don't buy that completely. Only because, right, so Corey Davis is a good blocker. Mm-hmm. If you're in that 12 personnel, you have two tight ends. You're gonna have some force up front there. And you're really talking about, if you're talking about guys on the outside, right? If Garrett Wilson is on the outside, sure, you want him to be able to try to hold the block, but realistically, it may not affect the play all that much, depending on first where you run the play and kind of how it's designed to be run. So I wouldn't pass on a guy, right? If Garrett Wilson's their guy, they love him as a route runner. They love his hands. They love his ability to separate. I'm not gonna pass on him for somebody in the later rounds that I think can block if those skills aren't the same, because I need games not to look like what we saw against the Buffalo Bills. We got to get guys that can separate, and those guys at the top edge of the draft there, a guy like Garrett Wilson, if you're going to take him, it probably is not going to be to block. So
that's what I was thinking.
If you're going to go into that with that mindset, that the guy needs to block, at a very high level in order for this offense to be effective. I don't completely buy that. No.
Yeah. And it's like you think about other wide receivers that are drafted high. Like, did the Dolphins look at, Jalen Waddle and say, like, can he block? Like, I mean, I'm sure that's an upside thing. For sure you want guys that can block. But I don't know. It's just an interesting thing I had saw, and I didn't really know how the best way to answer it. And I feel like you answered it better than how I would have answered it. So, perfectly said. Let's go ahead and let's talk a little bit more about wide receivers. Who do you have, James? Anybody on your short list here?
Yeah, so I actually thought it was a pretty cool group.
Cool.
And for the Jets specifically too, because I started to run down and I knew names. And I, disclaimer too. I mean, I'm kind of, going off a scouting reports for most of these guys too. It's very hard to sit down and some of these guys, if I could make this a full-time job, that would be awesome. But unfortunately,
you're right there with me, buddy. Don't you worry.
Unfortunately, it's not. So there are players, there are players down this wide receiver list that some I didn't know at all. There were guys I didn't know, but I thought it was a cool group when you start looking at the size of these guys and what the Jets could use in that wide receiver room. And it's a big body that can win, right, the jump ball, win in the red zone, get those back shoulder, get that deep threat going. So my guy there, Alec Pierce out of Cincinnati, 6'3", 208. So probably plays at a little bit heavier than that, but big body, big target, 17 yards per catch. He's a downfield threat. He high points the football so he can go up and get it. And so that kind of guy is something I'm looking forward to seeing. And I wrote it down with anyone who had a decent height on this list here is I know they can high point the football. How do they do separation wise, right? In those, route running situations, are they able to separate from these cornerbacks and or safeties or however they're matched up? Can they create that separation despite the size? So that's something I'm looking forward to. But Alec Pierce was the first guy that I highlighted on my list.
Yeah, I have Alec Pierce as well. And then the other guy I have is Trey Turner from Virginia Tech, 6'2", 190. His stat lines throughout his college career are like so consistent, it's almost eerie. He had 500-plus yards his first 3 years, ended up with 675 this past year. He's the brother of P.J. Harrison, who was a first-round pick in the NBA. So he's got some bloodlines there with, athleticism. Big thing that I read is that he needs to diversify his route tree. Kind of sounded like a, Robbie Anderson in that regard. Like we heard that about, Robbie coming into his, I think it was the second or third year. They wanted him to work on having more routes in his arsenal. He also fumbled a little bit in college. That was a bit of a problem for my man here. And also just not quite creative after the catch. So for a guy who's only 190, you would be kind of hoping that he'd be able to make some more plays. Not a huge playmaker, but there is some versatility there. They did give him some opportunities to actually run the football. Over 50 carries in college football, almost 500 yards. So there is some versatility there. The size, speed thing is there as well. So could he be somebody that Joe Douglas takes a swing on late in the draft? I think it's possible because he is a little bit of a freakazoid for that size-speed combo. All right. Wide receivers are donezo. We can do running backs. We can talk about my edge group because I saved that for last because that's my favorite. Any running backs you like, Mike? I've got one that I want to make sure we talk about.
I have a couple names. I'm going to throw out one that's probably going to be a little bit just going to work from just a sleeper standpoint. Damon Pierce out of Florida.
Okay.
Is a name that's getting more and more attention. Stats don't jump off the screen to you, but it's where you look at the bigger picture of what he brings to the table. Again, has that burst that you would want to complement, him alternating with Michael and potentially Coleman if he stays on the team at the tenants on out there in free agency. He could change direction in the second, which is fantastic. It gives a little bit of dynamic feel to our committee back there. I haven't watched a lot of tape of him. He's elusive. He can catch the ball, and that's something that we know is something that you just need to capitalize on and using our backs in multiple dimensions. So again, stats in terms of his college career, nothing crazy, but we have seen these backs make the next, evolve and take the next step when they reach the NFL, and definitely a sleeper, but definitely someone I think will be interesting to see how he goes and how he progresses.
That was one of the names I was going to actually pull up. I didn't end up doing it, but he's certainly in the conversation. He's an interesting back for sure. James, you want to go Alabama or you got somebody else?
So I mean, I have Brian Robinson on my list because it was
Too
you have
easy.
to do it. Yeah, too easy. So I do have him on my list, but I'm gonna just kind of save him only because he's a big dude, right? Big guy, 6'1", 226. He's powerful. He's got some speed to him. I do like that he's fresh, that he's kind of hasn't had that workload other than this year. And so it's kind of one of those things where, all right, how much can we get out of him? It's just one of the things when you watch Alabama with Bryce Young playing quarterback. Bryce Young is very rarely, if at all, under center. And so when you look at Brian Robinson running the ball, he's taken a lot of snaps, a lot of carries out of the shotgun. And we've seen Zach obviously under center. The Jets will run that kind of running game. And so I would be curious to see this week. I haven't seen anything yet, how he runs the ball, taking handoffs from, a quarterback under center.
Sorry, I wanted to ask you, do you think that's a better fit for him to not be in shotgun exclusively?
Yeah, I mean, so it's what he did. It's kind of what we've seen him do. And so I don't know how he would technically handle the under center. I mean, it may not be that big of a difference. Maybe I'm making it a bigger deal than it is, but I feel like the vision of it is different, right?
Sure.
Kind of you're going downhill, you're getting that, you're getting the handoff from the quarterback while you're kind of looking at your holes, vision wise. I think it's a little bit different. It happens a little bit quicker when you're right next to the quarterback. And there's also a read factor too with Alabama and how they run, whether it's an RPO or, a read option that they kind of utilize Bryce Young's running ability in that way too. So I would be kind of curious to see how he does handle with the quarterback under center. Not saying he can't do it, just I don't think we've seen a whole heck of a lot of it. So, but yeah, powerful back. So with some fresh legs, and he really kind of and now I'm rambling about him.
No, that's okay.
But I kind of I like the attitude. Like those character factors for me, I think are important because I think we actually have a staff now that cares about that kind of stuff. Where you look and you say, okay, that's a Robert Saleh, Joe Douglas kind of guy, where the transfer portal is so popular now. Guys are getting inside the transfer portal left and right because something didn't work out at their school because they were a 5-star back, they were a 5-star player, and they didn't play right away. And then here's Brian Robinson waiting his turn, and it paid dividends for him. And so I think for that, it's a guy who, just stuck it out, and he was rewarded for it. So I think he would fit the mold of someone you'd want inside your locker room for sure. But
yeah,
all right.
No, it's okay. Sorry, you want to say something else?
Yeah, I'm gonna let you go because I'm maybe thinking the other guy might be the same guy, and I'm curious.
Okay. So one thing I was just gonna point out one thing about Robinson is that he is that guy that's a bruiser. He can run between the tackles, obviously, which I think this offense does need. We kind of missed that element a little bit. I know Michael Carter can obviously do it, but just somebody that's a little bit more. Maybe a little bit more effective in those short yardage situations. We kind of sucked at that last year, I think, a little bit.
Yeah.
And we need to get somebody in there that can really push it up the middle. The added bonus with a Brian Robinson, and maybe you could tell me I'm wrong here, he was somebody that they used and that they trusted in the passing game. They did throw him the football. So somebody that can do both of those things, I think, is a real plus. The guy that I was going to mention, he doesn't really have that on his resume a whole lot. Is Hassan Haskins. This is the Michigan running back, 6'1", 220 pounds, and he is a beefcake running back. I mean, this is a guy that's just going to power you, down your throat kind of running back. I think Rex Ryan would really like this guy, ground and pound style. He's not the most efficient runner, so he had 270 carries last year and averaged about 4.9 yards per carry. In the NFL, that would be outstanding. Excellent. College football, it's a little bit on the lower end of the spectrum. 20 touchdowns, though. And in short yardage situations, this guy's going to feast and beast in the NFL. Is he a fit for our offense, though? That's kind of the question. I don't know if Robert Saleh and Joe Douglas necessarily want a running back like that. I want a running back like that, but I don't know if they do. But I feel like I feel like the need is there for a guy that can kind of smash and bash a little bit, and that's kind of what I was thinking. Vern is a little version of our own, like a AJ Dillon guy. He's not going to be like AJ Dillon. I think AJ Dillon's a little bit more explosive, but give me somebody that can get those tough yards, man. That's what I'm really looking forward in the draft. So he's the guy that was on my list. Mike, you got anybody else, or should I throw it back to James?
No, go ahead. I'll throw it back to James.
Okay, that's fine. And I have one more name, but it's a mixed bag there for running back.
All right. Yeah, my guy too, Rashad White from Arizona State, 6 foot 210. So I got a chance to look at some YouTube stuff on him a couple days ago. I thought he had really good vision. He was pretty patient, good vision, and I think that vision obviously matters. Scheme doesn't matter for vision. You need it in all types of schemes, but for us specifically, when you're in that wide zone, outside zone type of scheme, you need to be able to see the hole when it opens and hit it. Stick your foot in the ground and go, and whether you make your decision to continue outside or take it up inside. I found him as someone who had really good vision, bigger back, so 6 foot, offers a little bit more in that powerful-ish game. He wasn't overly overpowering of any sorts, but the patience and the vision kind of struck me as something that would be extremely helpful in the running back room with this outside zone scheme we're in.
Yeah, oddly enough, he was one of the few running backs I actually put on my phone and watched some of the footage. Definitely liked what I saw too. The only other name I was going to throw out there for running backs was Mr. James Cook, who may not even play running back apparently. He is getting some reps as wide receiver, I believe, at the Senior Bowl. And he is very, very small. He's only like 190 pounds. So does he really translate to the NFL? Maybe not. And also, he does not. He's the brother of Dalvin Cook, but he is not the explosive athlete that Dalvin Cook is. He does not have that, that second and third gear that Dalvin Cook has. Everything that I'm reading suggests that James Cook is versatile and could be a third down back in the NFL, but not necessarily a full-time starter. So, all right, Vern's saying it sucked that Haskins backed out of the Senior Bowl. Wanted to see him. Yeah, I thought he was playing. Is he backed out? That's too bad.
Yeah, I think he backed. I don't know if it was injury, but I think I saw he backed out.
Yeah, and that's what I read too, Grant Rude. That Cook is really not a burner like his brother. Doesn't have that extra juice that Dalvin has. Oh, that's disappointing. I didn't know that Haskins had opted out. I guess for a reason, though. He's probably the best power back, maybe, in the draft. He's not the most versatile, but he's one of the best power backs for sure. All right. We're going a little slow here. We got to go faster. Let's go with our very favorite. We'll each get one guy, and we can go kind of short and sweet here. One edge and one linebacker. Mike, you want to go first? You want to go second?
I'll go linebacker, and I'll go Devin Lloyd. From everything I say, he's Saleh's type of player. Coming out of Utah, 6'3", 230, give or take a pound or two. We know that we need to find a long-term answer to our linebacker crew, and CJ is not going to be there forever. Devin Lloyd has the skill set. He's known for his high football IQ, so definitely would be a guy that would wear the captain patch at some point, would be the guy leading, being the general on the field for the defense. Can definitely, he's great against the run, can also cover. A lot of questions on where he's going to go in the draft, but definitely a guy that seems to be mapped and somewhat being tracked to the Jets in terms of the perfect player for what we need. Again, definitely a guy I haven't watched a lot of tape on, but yeah, I think Devin Lloyd at Utah seems to be getting not only a lot of press for linebacker talent, but someone who we feel the Jets are really interested in as we get closer to the draft.
Yeah, he's going to go pretty high in the draft too, and he has some versatility. He played edge actually for Utah a little bit, so he could play a little bit of that like a joker. He could be all over the place. James, who you got at the linebacker position?
So linebacker position, Chad Muma. Is that how you? I'm not sure actually how you pronounce it, but
that's my guy too. So I'll let you go off on him. Go for it.
Yeah, Wyoming, out of Wyoming, so smaller school kind of guy, 6'2", 240, but he is, around the football, and that's what I'm kind of looking. 142 tackles this past year, so he had 8 tackles for loss, 3 interceptions, a couple touchdowns. So he's a guy who can cover and also diagnose plays, be around the football, and so he is the guy I'm definitely looking at, and I believe he is on the Jets roster, so that is a positive for us. So is that a guy that we can get? When a guy like Nakobe Dean or Devin Lloyd go off the board after pick 10 or potentially after pick 4, in between 5 and 9 or something in that range, and we're looking for linebacker help, is that a guy we can get? Not late, super later on, but a 3rd round type of deal or something like that. I'm not exactly sure where he's projected draft wise, but he intrigued me quite a bit.
Yeah, I would say the high end is probably like at the the earliest, probably like a high second, or a low second. I'm sorry.
Low second.
But definitely, he could definitely go in the 3rd round, and I think he's going to be one of the more popular mocked linebackers to the Jets as we go through the offseason. He's super popular. I'm not going to give a linebacker. I'm just going to go right to edge, and I'm going to give you 2 names. I'm not going to talk too much on them. The one is Cameron Thomas, San Diego State. This guy is versatile. He will fit beautifully at 4'3" defensive end, and long arms, big dude. Great get off. He can really fly actually quite a bit. He's got a good first step, and production was there his last year at San Diego State. 20 tackles for a loss. Offhand, I think he had double digit. 10.5 sacks. And the motor is insane apparently with this guy. And you look at him, you look at pictures of him, and I know it's a cop out a little bit. He looks exactly like J.J. Watt. He's number 99. He's a big white dude, and I know that's like a thing that everybody's going to want to say. But he plays a lot like him a little bit, I'm not saying he is J.J. Watt, but it's a similar play style. Strong hands. He hits really, really good. He uses his hands and punches really good. I've watched some of his tape, actually. That's one of my guys right now. If you have not checked him out, highly recommend it that you do. He is one of my favorites. I think that he will do very well in the Senior Bowl. Jets 962 Marvel might be the coolest name I've seen in the chat. He says, "Hey chat, what do you guys want to see? Jets pick up a tight end in free agency or get one in the draft?" Both. Jets Marvel. I want both. And honestly, if I had to pick one, I would say probably the draft, because there's so many available in the draft. Welcome to the channel. It's the first time I've seen you. Glad to have you here. The other edge that I'm going to give, and maybe James will be upset, is Jermaine Johnson II. He was at Georgia, transferred to FSU, and this is a guy that could be a riser, could fly up the boards a little bit. I think he fits very nicely into this defense as well. He's not like a Von Miller in terms of like speed and bend off the edge, but this is a guy who has a lot of production, and he kicked a lot of ass this year at Florida State. 17.5 tackles for a loss, 11.5 sacks. So I love what I've seen in the edge class. There's a lot of really good names, and I didn't mention a bunch. I have a couple other guys here. Myjai Sanders. I know he comes with a little bit of concern against the run, but there's options in the edge in the edge class. So I like him. I like him a lot. James, who you got?
Did you see? And I just saw it was a quick clip. Did you see him against the big Sanders against the big kid from Minnesota in the rep? So
Did he get buried?
I don't. No, it was the opposite.
Oh.
Yeah, he took down Daniel. I'm not even trying to pronounce his last name, but the kid that the Minnesota right tackle that's 6'8". What is he? I have it.
Oh yeah, the guy's Falale or something.
Yeah, 6'8", 387.
Yes,
is what he weighed in at.
Right.
Largest wingspan. I'm not sure if they ever recorded, but it was definitely the largest wingspan here. Over 35-inch arms.
What did he do to him? I need to know because I didn't see this or hear about it.
It was just a pretty simple. I don't want to say simple, but it was a bull rush, and he just got Daniel right off balance and flattened him. They do those, like, they set up the entire offensive line and defensive line, but when they blow the whistle, only one goes, so the edge goes against the right tackle or the left tackle, everybody else stays still. So I don't know if anyone can find the video maybe on Twitter. It's out there somewhere. If I find it, maybe I'll tweet it out or send it around. But yeah, so Sanders was it was an impressive rep there I saw because I have spoken about him and that I don't think he's a fit for us. But that one rep, I was like, ooh, that was pretty interesting for to take down a guy that size.
I think with him, it's like he might need to start out as like a situational pass rusher, which isn't a bad thing necessarily. I remember when the Jets drafted John Abraham out of South Carolina, they didn't use him as a full-time starter right away. Sean Ellis started. John Abraham was the guy that they were bringing in on pass rushing situations. So there's no reason why you can't draft a guy that needs a little bit of coaching and a little bit of help with that kind of stuff. Because if he's got the skills to be a pass rusher, bring him in. Like, I'm cool with that. I'm good with that. All right. Any other names? I think we can move on, right? Are we okay with that?
I'll just throw one out there.
Shut up. I'm just kidding. Go ahead. Go ahead. I'm messing with you. Go.
Dominic Robinson he's out of Miami. I just love his story. He actually played quarterback, rotated to wide receiver, then to edge. Definitely a guy. I actually watched a few of his tape, and definitely a sleeper, but definitely has an amazing story, and is actually supposedly a late second, early third rounder. We'll see how he plays in the bowl, but a huge guy. I mean, well, not huge for edge, 6'4". Definitely got the size, but interesting trajectory in terms of where he started versus where he is now. So throwing that name out there.
Cool deal, man. No worries. We'll come back and we'll see if you were right. We'll check up on that. Never mind. Sorry. All right. James, it is your spin at this thing, man. You are going to go ahead and you're going to take us on this saucy adventure. We're going to put up the screen right now, and I'm going to make sure I pause it. And you've got your break here, Mike, just like I do. James, you don't get a break. You don't get that break. Before you go, I'm just gonna remind everybody after this film breakdown of Ahmad Gardner. Sorry, my brain wasn't working. As soon as we're done doing this breakdown, we are gonna do a 3-round mock draft, and then we will call it a night. Thank you guys so much for hanging out with us. If you're watching this right now and you haven't hit the like button, would greatly appreciate that. And go Jets. So, James, it's you, man.
Cool. All right. So I have been on a quest to kind of fight for the cornerback spot in this draft here. And reason being, and John, you kind of mentioned it earlier on in the stream, was that we wound up playing a whole heck of a lot more man coverage on third down, really. Third down than I think we were maybe all expecting. And we can all go back to those memories during the season of, being third and long, or Stephon Diggs in the red zone against Brandon Echols kind of over and over again. And, you kind of go back, and I kind of tried to go back and, find something from, Coach Sala. And, he, around training camp, he kind of mentioned the fact that he wants guys that can win on third down, right? He wants guys that can compete, whether it's going to be in man coverage or, even if it's in zone coverage, but you got to get off the field on third down. And we saw them play a lot of man coverage on third down, and they could not get off the field. And so this is the first play for Sauce Gardner, cornerback out of Cincinnati. He is long. He's not in the Senior Bowl, so we'll find out his measurements later on. But they have him listed at 6'3", 200 pounds or so. So 6'3" is extremely tall for a cornerback, and his length is extremely valuable to him, both in man coverage and in zone coverage. He's able to reroute wide receivers off their path, and still stay in phase. And where they play him, Cincinnati, is in the boundary almost all the time. Kobe Bryant is at the bottom of the screen. He's their field corner. So you think of him as the Brandon Eccles kind of the group. And we played Bryce Hall a lot in the boundary, and that's where Cincinnati plays Sauce Gardner in the boundary there. So he's at the top of the screen. And I picked this one.
Whoops. Sorry about that. My apologies. That was my fault.
Right. He's up there, and the wide receiver he's going up against is none other than Jameson Williams. So this is my favorite rep. When you're watching Sauce and you're watching Cincinnati tape, it can get very boring. And the reason being is they don't ever throw the ball aside. It's kind of like, you kind of wake up and you're like, all right, the ball's going his way finally. But you watch his technique, and here he's going to have a route. Essentially what Jameson Williams is going to do is he's going to go vertical, but he's kind of going to run a very long, about 18-yard stop or so. And so he sees the safety help, so he kind of just drives down the route. But Sauce Gardner is extremely sticky in man coverage. And what I like about him so much is that he's patient. When you are on that island right there against Jameson Williams, you have to know his speed, right? And his speed is almost unlike any other that you're going to face at the college football level. And if you kind of just roll it here, maybe if we could go slow there, you see how he is sort of backpedaling, but he's keeping active feet, right? So he's active feet at the line of scrimmage in press coverage there, because what he wants to do is he doesn't want to give the outside to Jameson Williams, because if he gets outside, that safety has no shot to get over to give him help if he gets beat. And so what he does there is he's patient at the line of scrimmage. He lets Jameson Williams do his.
Sorry. I keep screwing up, man. Dude, it's my fault. I do apologize. It's like it's the first time I've ever done this before, and I'm screwing. I apologize.
Don't be sorry. And so he lets Jameson Williams go inside. He lets him do his two-way two at the line of scrimmage to try to get him. Basically what Jameson Williams is trying to do is trying to get Sauce Gardner to turn his hips one way or the other, and Jameson Williams releases in the other direction. But Sauce, with his length, his patience, his recovery speed, he's able to stay super square at the line of scrimmage, and then just follow at the hip Jameson Williams until he drives this down, and he's all over the route. The ball does not go in his direction, but Sauce Gardner is with it the entire route. And so that very beginning there, he breaks down when Jameson breaks down, and it's kind of just the perfect man coverage rep, which you don't see very often against, not just Jameson Williams, but guys with his speed, where guys kind of give that player a little bit more room, and then they break on it, or then they're able to, when they break their cushion, they're able to drive on it, turn their hips, and run with it. For Sauce Gardner, the way he has very fluid hips, and so he's able to stay patient, and then once Jameson commits, so does Jameson. Yes, Grant's exactly right. He ran the route for Jameson, and that's just something you don't see very often, and he does it on a consistent basis against these wide receivers.
I can't do this, Rusty. I'm sorry. I can't do it to my man James. I have too much respect for him. So I'm not trying to do like a commercial break here in the middle of this, but I gotta ask you, where
Yep.
is he gonna go? Where is this guy gonna go in the draft? Because you had said you would love him at 10, and I think I saw on Twitter you had like you had quote tweeted some draft where he was like ranked like way higher, like he was like fourth or fifth in the lineup. So his projection is all over the place.
So it is all, and by all over the place, it is legitimately all over the place. And this was a few weeks ago, but I looked at a mock draft by a reputable website, and the first round did not have him included. And
That's crazy.
They ended up making like a mock draft 2.0 not later, and they said that they send the mock drafts out to certain executives, NFL people, etc. And the first response that they got back from the mock draft was, "You forgot somebody."
Right.
Like you just totally forgot somebody. And then you see him a lot of mock drafts in that 12 to 15 range. And then Daniel Jeremiah was the one who I tweeted out yesterday, who I very much like to follow his opinions on draft prospects. He tweeted out his top 50 overall players. So, not basically, where they may go in the draft, just overall prospects. And he was number 5 over. Sauce was number 5 overall, ahead of our guy, Kayvon Thibodeau, who is number 6. And so he's kind of all over the place. But if he is there at 10, he's my pick at 10. I think it would be an extremely, extremely valuable pick for this defense and this secondary that needs a lot of help.
I didn't want to stop you, but I just think it's crazy that somebody who's obviously got the size, all the measurables, the production's there, and I mean, I don't know, man. It's interesting. It's always, the draft is always such a puzzle. It's incredible.
Oh yeah,
and
for sure.
Vern, that is a good comment. And honestly, that might be one of the topics for next week. There are people that are legitimately concerned about his attitude. His arrogance apparently is a thing. Like, he has a very, very arrogant approach to pretty much everything apparently. So what is going on with him? He's going to be available and we pass on him? Is that going to be a thing? Like, what is going on with Kayvon Thibodeau? Go ahead. Let's get back to what we were doing.
Yeah, no. It's a good point, because you're right. At this point, we don't know where anybody's gonna go. It's all projection there. But so second play here. This is again against Alabama, and Jamison Williams is on the bottom. He's gonna motion over. Sauce Gardner's at the top of the screen. So it is a man coverage look. But we always talk about, right, and I could put 1,000 man coverage reps in here against a wide receiver, but you try to find kind of those special plays that, don't deal with him just covering somebody. And here, Jamison Williams is going to motion across the field, and Sauce Gardner is going to be engaged with the wide receiver at the top of the screen. He's going to kind of flow with him as that wide receiver flows inside to block that outside backer who is following Jamison Williams. And Jamison, I'm sorry, I keep saying Jamison Williams. Sauce Gardner, what he does is, while he's engaged with that wide receiver, his eyes are in the backfield. So he's not looking just directly at the wide receiver to say, okay, is he going to run? I got him in man coverage. Is he running the slant? What's he doing? He's got his eyes, his head exactly where you have the ball, the video stopped, is looking to see what is going on in that backfield. And as soon as Bryce Young pulls that from Brian Robinson's stomach and that ball goes out to Jamison Williams, Sauce Gardner is all over it. Now, good, right? That's what we want. We want him to have the ability to recognize, read the backfield, and be able to make plays that some other guys can't make, because things happen so fast and you get caught up with your individual assignment. So this is good. We're at a good spot here. The second part of this play is, now you have Jamison Williams against you in the open field, and if you miss the tackle, it's a touchdown. And so are you going to make the play, or are you going to miss the tackle? And as we see here, there's about 5 yards of separation when Jamison Williams catches the ball. And Sauce, he doesn't wait, right? He kind of sizes him up, and then he attacks. He closes, good closing speed, attacks his outside hip there, and he puts a nice little hit on him. And I believe this was either a gain of 1 or a loss of 1.
Yeah.
And you're looking there. He is more physical despite having a very thin frame. Now, he doesn't always make the tackle, but there are more times than not where you see him get involved. He gets his nose in it, and there he makes just a really nice play that you want to see. Now with all these quick passes from these wide receivers, you need that guy that has the ability to get off the block, recognize, and make the play. All too often we've seen that in the past year with the Jets, where they just don't, they didn't read and react very well. And so here, the next play, I included this one because I'm going back to character in a sense. It's character and play. So they are playing, I believe this is UCF. So yeah, this is UCF, and it's 35-7 Cincinnati right now. So this game, there's like 4 minutes left in the game, in the third quarter. This game is not going to result in a UCF win the way it was going. But Sauce Gardner's still out there, right? He has a competitive fire. He's still going to play. And so UCF here has the trips to the bottom of the screen. They have no wide receiver out to the boundary. And so what they do is they shift Sauce Gardner out to be over the number 3. And so he's not playing outside right here. He's actually playing essentially a slot position. Mm-hmm. And he's going to be tasked with guarding the number 3 here. And so it's 3rd and 6. And he's going to make this stop. It's not a pass breakup, but it is a tackle before the sticks, and he creates a 4th down here. But what you want to see is the closing speed, right? So he's able to stay patient once again, but he's in off coverage this time. So he's waiting to see what this number 3 wide receiver is going to do. He runs right out to the flat, and as soon as he hits that flat, he drives on that ball, and he cuts it at a perfect angle to where the quarterback fits this in. But it's just short because Sauce is there to play it right there. He's kind of all over it. And the closing speed is impressive when he comes down to make a play there. So I liked it for the reason of the position, right? I do think it's something that teams care about, to where if you have a scout that turns on, Sauce Gardner, and they're like, yeah, I know what he did in the national championship, right? I know how he competed against a guy like Jamison Williams. What was he doing against UCF in the third quarter when they're up by a gazillion points? And here he's still playing exactly like he would play in the national championship. He gets up, he's excited, he signals that it's 4th down, and then you kind of move on there. So just kind of elite closing speed, but also the fluid movements of Sauce Gardner kind of put you in a position where you can do a whole lot of different things with him, and put him in positions to make plays. And so this last one here, I always try to include a really fun play. I think they're all fun, really, right? But
sure,
let's call something exciting. So
yeah,
Sauce is in the boundary once again, so he's at the top of the screen, and we're gonna get a cornerback blitz here by Sauce Gardner, and he's gonna make the sack. And I know, we're not drafting him to get sacks and things like that. But the way that he closes in on this quarterback is, first of all, it's really extremely quick, but it's not even like the quarterback was holding the ball for too long. I paused it quite a few times, and the routes weren't even really developed yet. For the quarterback really had, maybe he could have dumped it off to the flat, but the corner, he's going to go high-low. The quarterback's trying to get the corner route by the number 2 after the motion, and if it's not there, he's going to drop down to the flat. And the closing speed here for Sauce Gardner, the quickness to get there, and then the monster hit is just something.
Yeah.
He's already going before.
That's what I noticed too.
He's creeping. He knows where he goes. That safety knows that he's obviously blitzing, so they have to roll coverage over to that side. And yeah, you could just kind of roll it there. But the way he comes in, he comes in hot, and then he gives this jump at the end where makes me think his vertical leap at the combine or whatever it is probably going to be a ridiculous. Probably going to be a ridiculous number, but yeah, he comes in. He is very physical there for his size, and he's got elite man coverage ability. I didn't really include any zone coverage plays, only because one, the ball really never goes his way, but when he is in zone coverage, he's so long that he affects the passing lanes, and I think that is really important when we're looking at the Jets and the amount of zone that they play. He can really close windows pretty quickly for quarterbacks, and he's got tremendous ball skills when the ball comes his way. So I'm a huge fan, and I really do think he can kind of transform this defense to where he's the number 1, and then the number 2 is Bryce Hall, and then we got some depth behind him. And I think Bryce Hall would really benefit from having a guy like him on the other side.
Yeah, I'm interested to see what they do at cornerback this offseason, because it's one of those positions where I feel like they may feel like they need to go get that number 1 guy, but it might be another year where they wait. I don't know how they're going to attack it. Sauce Island. I like sauce. I say throw him in the saucepan. That's what I say. Saute that MFer. All right. James, thank you very much. Looks like you got one question here. It's from Vern. He says, curious if James has Sauce rated higher than Stingley at this point.
Yeah, I do.
Thoughts? There you go.
I do have him rated a little bit higher. And I think you have to take the totality of the circumstances into effect, right? That 2019 season by Stingley was unbelievable on many different occasions. He's a true freshman competing at that level in the SEC. But I do think, when you're rating players there, the fact that he just has not been healthy, and he did take a tad bit of a dip in his play when he was healthy. I put Sauce above Stingley in the rankings there. Sauce is actually number 1 for me, so there's nobody else actually higher.
Yeah, I think I would also, and I'm not an expert, but I would probably prefer Sauce Gardner as well. It wasn't just injuries, it's also the dip in production for Stingley as well. And everything that I'm reading is that he was highly regarded when he got to LSU, lived up to the hype, and really balled out. And then it's been kind of down ever since. Jets Marvel says, I feel as if Sauce has a higher floor than Stingley, but Stingley has the higher ceiling out of the two. That's a great way of putting it, actually. And that might be the case. That's fair as hell. Good comment by you, Jets Marvel. Thank you. Kev Chatta says, we still got to prioritize the trenches before corners. And that's kind of where I'm wondering is, will Joe Douglas and Robert Saleh, will they feel the need to go get that number 1 corner right now? They may. And again, there's nothing saying that they can't do both. They might be able to address both of those things, the trenches and cornerback. I still feel like that's certainly up for grabs. All right. Mock draft time. We're going to do this 3 rounds, and then we're going to say goodnight to you all. So let me go to my screen here.
Cool.
And let me pull up the mock draft screen. Let me see here. That's that. Here we go. Can you see that, James?
I can. Yep.
Okay, perfect. We are going to do 3 rounds. We've already selected. Nope, we did not select the New York Jets. And we're going to go ahead and just get started because that's the whole thing. And I will look up the poll real quick. And I posted this before the show started. What the hell? I can't get that to come off. Sorry. I posted a poll and I gave you 4 choices. The mock draft is going to be best player available. So we're going to go with that. Offense heavy was the other option, and that was the second highest vote getter. Trades was the third, and then defense heavy, obviously, was the last. All right. TDN mock better. I have no idea. I like this one. I've been using this one. I'll have to check it out, Kev Chatta. Thanks for throwing it in there. I will check that thing out. Okay, we got a trade proposal. And again, this is a monster trade package. If Joe Douglas was sitting on the clock with Thibodeau and Hutchinson gone at 4, we can slide back to 13, pick up a second and a third and a future second. How the hell do you pass that up? Maybe I'm wrong here. James, what are your thoughts on this trade offer?
No, you have to take that.
There's no way you would. Again, if this was real life, we're not talking about this mock draft necessarily, because you guys said let's stick to maybe the best player available. Yeah, Grant Rude, he's saying that they put out such ridiculous trades that are never happening, and that's what I think. Why would the Browns be even interested in the 4th pick so badly? So we're probably going to reject that. And it's the exact same offer from the Ravens, so we're going to reject that too. And we are now in what I feel like is the situation that we may be facing, unless Thibodeau is going to fall like the rumors are saying. What are we doing here? What are we doing at pick 4? We've got a bunch of players available. And by the way, I hope you guys can see. You guys can see the available players, right? Mm-hmm. Okay, cool. So we've got guys like Hamilton there. We've got George Karlaftis, who a lot of people talk about, and it's one of those similar situations. People love him and they also hate him. So I would love for you guys to throw in the chat who you'd like. I could create a poll, but what are your thoughts, Mike and James? Why don't we go to Mike first? You took a break. You went to the kitchen to get yourself a snack or something. What are you feeling on this pick? What are your thoughts?
And I can see the name. It's a little bit small for me. I'll just say, because I'm trying to get my stream updated, I definitely want to go defense with the pick. George Karlaftis was one of the names I threw out there in the past. However, we talked about a number of different edge spots. To me, it's edge. I think that's the one name. That's the one position that seems to be the most appealing to me, especially at this high of a pick. So while I get my stream and look at the names in more detail, I'll turn it over to James.
Right now, he's the early vote getter. Vern is saying Karlaftis. Big Al is saying Karlaftis as well. James, what do you say?
I'm curious where Ekem.
It's a hard one.
Where Ekem is rated.
Are you there? Can't hear you.
Can you hear me now?
Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Did I screw something up?
I can hear him, John. Can you hear me?
James, are you there?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Oh, okay. I don't know what just happened. All right. No worries. Sorry about the technical glitch. What are your thoughts, James? I didn't hear you.
I was curious where it is an interesting big board there. I was curious where the NC State offensive lineman was.
Ekwonu?
Yeah.
He is right here. The 20th ranked, according to this.
Okay, yeah.
Is that where you're leaning here? Offensive tackle?
Yeah, I think he's going to wind up in that top probably 6 picks. I think if he falls to 5, I think it would be a pretty home run pick for the Giants there. So I had him rated pretty highly, but I don't disagree with a Karlaftis type of pick. But I am thinking in this scenario, if those three go off the board and there's no trade available, I do think Joe Douglas is going to have a hard time passing on the NC State offensive lineman there.
Okay. So Jets 962 Marvel, I do agree with you. Being able to trade back is the preferred method. And we are going to be doing a million mock drafts this offseason. So there's going to be nights where we just say, look, let's go ahead and let's trade out of 4. Because people voted for best player available, we're probably going to stick and pick on most of these 5 draft picks. So I put it in the poll. I created the poll. Who do you want? We're going to throw 3 names out there. Kyle Hamilton, the safety, Ekwonu, and Carl Laftis, because as of right now, those are the only 3 names. Although I guess I do apologize, Grant Root. I didn't see that you wanted Garrett Wilson at 4. You want that wide receiver, and he has been chirping about that lately. He's been saying that with some gusto and confidence. He said it again. He threw it in there again, but with more exclamation points though. Grant Root, we will have to do a mock draft at some point where he is in the conversation for 4. Right now, Ekwonu is leading the vote. I'm going to give it another couple of seconds here. But it looks like it's going to be the offensive tackle who could potentially play guard year 1. Did you talk about that, James, at all in his rookie season?
Yes. Yeah, he can definitely go to guard right away and then end up in the tackle spot. So he's got that versatility there. And he is a load to handle.
Yeah, and I found the play again where he just completely clocked 2 people, pancaked them both on the same play. It's pretty outstanding. So we're going to go Ekwonu here. I think that's the popular pick, and we're going to roll with that. So Ekwonu is a New York Jet, and we're moving on to pick number 10. Got a trade offer from a division rival, because why the hell not, right? We're going to decline that. Yeah. The Buccaneers, they may want a quarterback. That would be a hell of a pull.
That would be.
I would be doing that one all day long. Same thing, well, that one's not too ridiculous. We're trading back 3 and trading up from the 3rd round into the 2nd round. That's not too outlandish, but I'm not going to do that either. That's crazy. We're not doing any of those trades. Okay. I feel like this pick is easy for me to say, but we're going to go ahead and, again, we're going to toss this to the people who are watching this with us right now. Who do you want with this big... Oh, Kyle Hamilton is there at 10.
Wow.
Garrett Wilson is there. Ahmad Gardner is there. Derek Stingley is there. Linderbaum is there. So this one's going to be all over the place. Traylon Burks, let's make sure he's there. I'm sure he is, though.
Yep.
Traylon Burks is available. They have him as a 27th ranked player. That's probably going to change at some point as we get closer to the draft. Okay, so throw your names in there. Mikey boy, what are you leaning? We took our offensive lineman. We now have an insurance policy on Becton. We also have a guy who can play guard if Becton is good this season. So what are you leaning, man?
I'm kind of torn here. Grant's actually in my head. My gut says to either take Kyle Hamilton or Derek Stingley, but Garrett's sitting there. I don't know. I mean, obviously, this is where you start to miss the trade scenarios, but.
We'll do we're going to do this every week. We're going to do mocks, and I think that we'll mix it up.
I mean, Garrett's probably a smart choice. However, because we took a Kim, I think I gotta probably stay defense just to balance out and to know that our defense needs help. So, with that, I still am a Derek Stingley guy. I mean, but Kyle Hamilton there is pretty appealing, especially when we know we need safety help with Marcus May out there in the wind. So, yeah, I'd probably go Kyle Hamilton or Derek Stingley, and I'd be happy with either of those.
All right, James, I know who you want. You probably don't need to. You could throw another name out there, I guess, if there's somebody else other than Ahmad.
I would look at, so playmaker is the word that comes to mind. So I'm either looking at it Garrett Wilson, um, Ahmad Gardner would be my pick, but I would be absolutely fine here if we went a Garrett Wilson. I know Traylon Burks is a little down on this ranking here, but
Yeah, it doesn't matter.
yeah, I'm good with a Garrett Wilson here too. So playmaker is my main concern.
All right, so there's been a couple of people that have mentioned Hamilton. There's been a couple of people that have mentioned Sauce. Vern says you sold him. Let's go ahead and let's say Hamilton is on the board, Wilson, Burks, and we'll say Sauce. Does that sound like an okay poll there?
For sure.
Yeah, sounds good.
All right, cool. So the poll is up right now. Go ahead and vote on this, guys. Let me know who you want at number 10 overall. We will make the pick pretty quickly, so throw your vote in right now. I would prefer Wilson, Garrett Wilson, but that's without knowing jack about what we did in free agency or trades or re-signing players. To me, I think the need for a playmaker on offense is pretty high. That's why I don't like our pick at 4 overall. Hate to be that guy, but I would have rather gone a different way at 4. But what are you going to do? You can't win them all. All right, we got some votes spread all over the place. Right now, Kyle Hamilton is leading the poll. We're not always going to give you the choice, by the way. I hope you guys realize that. Some nights we're going to just take over and we're not going to listen to a damn thing you say. So don't think that you get the...
That's the way we like it.
Yeah. You don't always get to choose. Kyle Hamilton is definitely
It's
ahead.
pretty crazy that he made it to 10. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think there is a world that exists where he might slip a couple, but I don't know. I don't think he could make it to 10, personally. All right, Garrett Wilson making a little bit of a comeback here. I'm going to give another 10 seconds, and then I'm making the pick, and it's going to be Kyle Hamilton, which is an interesting thing. You said playmaker, James. I guess the argument could be made that he is a playmaker on the in the secondary. My apologies to Isaac Wright, who wanted Stingley. He didn't even make it to the poll. I do apologize. SG31 Black, he says we need to get our Jamar Chase with the 10th overall pick. Vern says we missed our edge at 4. Or I guess at 4 and 10. He says you got to go cornerback here. Help the defense out. That's kind of the other route. If I wasn't going wide receiver, I think I am starting to get pretty turned on to the idea of a corner in the first round. I think that's a pretty fine plan, if you ask me. Jets Marvel, you're probably right. Probably won't be there. But again, crazier stuff has happened on draft night.
You never know. Yeah.
You never know, dude. You absolutely never know. So, all right, I'm going to go ahead and select it. He is the winner. Kyle Hamilton is a New York Jet in this first mock draft. I hate both of these picks. I hate this draft. Chad,
we got Kyle Hamilton.
Yeah, he was the vote getter. He was the winner. So, there you go. Devin Lloyd, Nakobe Dean, back-to-back.
Trevor Penning is a good Senior Bowl watch.
Yeah, look at that. Tyler Linderbaum fell to the late first, and he went to the Dolphins, who might not even be picking there. Ooh. We didn't even talk about that tonight.
Yeah, true.
The Dolphins could be in some serious you-know-what with their accusations going on right now. Yeah, Big Al, that's how I feel. I threw up in my mouth for sure. I don't want a safety in the first round. And it has nothing to do with Jamal Adams. I'm not into it. I'm not into it. Grant Rude says, Wilson, Sauce, Hamilton is my order of preference here. Bet dollars to donuts if we don't take Wilson here. Cleveland takes him at 13. Well, yeah. Let's see if you were right. Let's go back. He's right. Garrett Wilson did go 13.
They do need a wide receiver, yeah.
Yeah. All right, so we're at 35. Oh, wow. So they have Chad Muma going in the early second round. Holy cow. Let's take a look at the big board here. We've got Trayvon Walker, an edge from Georgia. Kenny Pickett is available. If we hadn't taken a safety in the 10th overall pick. Lewis Sign is there. Is it Sign or Scene? It's Sign, right?
I think it's Sign.
Okay. Zion Johnson would be attractive as well. This is why I don't want offensive line early. There's so many good ones in the second round range. Let's see here. Jahan Dotson's available. Let's go to the position. Which boy are we talking about? Tight end?
Yeah.
McBride is available.
45. Yeah.
Defensively, the best player available is Trayvon Walker, Lewis Sign. I don't see, maybe my Jai, excuse me. Roger McCreary is available. We didn't take a cornerback.
No, he took safety.
All right. So I hope the chat starts to throw some names out there because I am split on a couple. Jahan Dotson would be attractive as a wide receiver. Trey McBride, excuse me, also attractive. And then defensively, I like the idea of adding Myjai Sanders, somebody that can get after the quarterback, and then McCreary as well. Grant Root says, take the 6'5", 275-pound edge. Walker is a monster. Here's the description. It's just insane that Trayvon Walker is perhaps the fourth interior defensive lineman that comes to mind when discussing the Georgia Bulldogs. On any other team, Walker would be one of the premier defensive playmakers. But in a rotation that includes Jordan Davis, Devontae Wyatt, blah, 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 they really like themselves some Trayvon Walker. What are your guys' thoughts? James, what are you thinking right now in regards to this pick?
Yeah, so I'm thinking either...
And we do have two. We have two in the next 4 picks, so...
Yeah, so I think we have to throw the tight end spot in there. So you look at a Trey McBride. Mm-hmm. And where are we at wide receiver-wise? Did we...
wide receiver, Jahan Dotson.
Did the big dogs go?
Yeah, Jahan Dotson's there, though. He would be really good, I think. David Bell is a name I'm not all familiar with from Purdue.
He put up some ridiculous numbers out in Purdue this year. I think he's a bigger guy. He's a bigger wide receiver too. And
I want to point out Vern's comment, and again emphasizing this is why I don't want offensive line and safety early, because there is opportunities at those positions later. Second round, it's like a gold mine for that position. So anyway, sorry James, I cut you off.
Yeah, and then I think if we're thinking edge here, I'd add a name, and I think I just saw him somewhere down the line. Sure. Kingsley Enagbare, who's in the Senior Bowl as well. Yeah, at 44. I like him at the edge spot. I think he can provide some pass rush too. There, we're starting to get to that area where you try to find someone that can rush the passer. I think we'd be in the spot to find some guys. So I'd put him in that mix, but Trey McBride might need to be at the top.
He's probably my preferred choice. So that's the other thing, Vern. We just drafted a guard tackle at 4th overall. I don't know if we can spill another early pick on another. But listen, Zion Johnson, if we didn't take a offensive lineman, I probably would have already made the executive decision to just select him and not listen to anybody. I don't think Jermaine Johnson is available. I haven't seen him on the list. Yeah, he's gone. There are some interesting edge guys. Trayvon Walker was mentioned. Someone just said, dude, just hit the reset button. We can do that another night. It's getting a little late. We got to move forward here with this epically terrible draft. I am in favor of McBride being in the poll. You said, what was the guy's name that you mentioned, Mr. Wighaus?
Kingsley.
Enagbare. Yeah, he's an edge. We'll just put edge in here. Tight end is McBride. Let's put Jahan Dotson. I'm gonna say let's put Dotson in there. And We had Johnson. Zion Johnson was in the mix, so we'll put him in there as well, even though I don't know if Joe D would do that. But the poll is up. We got 4 names out there, guys. Go ahead and vote. I'll give this a few seconds, and then we will draft them. So it's already up. Yeah, it sucks that Muma, I might have even wanted Muma if he hadn't gone so quickly. He went very early. Walker was a name that was mentioned a lot. I feel like I'm neglecting the people out there by not putting his name in there, so I do apologize. McBride is the early vote getter right now. He's crushing. McBride. Give it a few more seconds here. Thanks for all of the people that are still watching. Thanks for hitting the like button, guys. If you haven't done that yet, would really appreciate if you did it before you left this evening. Kev Chatta says, have your daughter pick a player. We should do that. Well, listen, we will do that one night. I don't know how we would do it because she goes to bed early, but maybe I could have her wake up one night and have her come down here in the middle of her sleep. I have to get Mrs. NYJ today on board with that one, though. All right. McBride is winning, and I'm about to make him a Jet. We do have to get Zach some weapons. There's going to be a video talking about him as we need him to become a really great quarterback. I think that's something that people aren't comfortable saying because, like, that adds pressure. But I think it's important to have high expectations for him. And you look at the AFC right now, man, it is scary. It is scary. The AFC is locked and loaded forever, it seems. Herbert, Allen, Mahomes. Who's the other name? Burrow, the guy in the Super Bowl. So it's just a scary conference to have to play in, and we need him to be really great. Like, we need Zach Wilson to be a good quarterback. So, all right, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to take him. It's going to be, where is he? McBride. He is a New York Jet. So far, we have taken a guard, a safety, and a tight end in this draft.
What a shit show.
It is the most anti-premium position draft I've ever experienced. All right. We probably won't do polls for these next 2 picks. Let's go ahead and take a look at the big board. Not a whole lot's changed here. A safety went off the board and a running back. Let's go ahead and get an edge, maybe. So Walker or Enagbear, if that's how you say it. Let's see what everybody in the chat says. James, you're going to lean towards Mr. Kingsley, right?
Yeah, and is there the edge from Penn State? He's got an awkward name too. His first name is Arnold, though.
Yes.
Yeah, it could be. I think.
He was on my little
he's
list.
There too. Yeah.
He's a guy.
He's an interesting.
Yeah, I was gonna go there.
Grant Root is breaking it down for us. Enagbari. Drake Jackson's name got thrown out there. Kev Chatta says, if we draft McBride and Ruckert, we'll have the longest wall ever. Yes, we will have quite the blocking crew if we draft. My Jai is there. Yep, that's another guy I think it's worth mentioning. Honestly, I think it's going to be hard. I think we're going to probably have to decide on this one. So let's vote on an edge here. I think we have to go edge here. So,
yeah.
James, you're on the Mr. Kingsley and Enagbari.
Yeah.
Mike, what do you want? Who do you want for your edge? You got to pick, buddy. Go, quick.
Arnold. I'm going to go with the Penn State guy. Arnold. I can't say his last name.
I'd be good with that too. Yeah.
I'm gonna make the executive decision here. We're gonna go with Arnold. Arnold, I did read in his report. Yeah, Grant Root's he's gonna be upset. He's gonna punch his pillows as he goes to bed tonight because we didn't listen to a damn thing he wanted in this mock draft. Arnold, I did read in his report that he is a guy that probably needs to only play pass rushing situations when he comes in as a rookie. We're going to go ahead and take him, though, for the upside. And we have one more pick left. Grant Root, I'm sorry. Don't worry, buddy. You're going to be included in these mock drafts a little better when we're not streaming past 10 o'clock like we are. All right, moving through here. Let's see. Roger McCreary. We probably should have considered him there. Jahan Dotson. Zion Johnson. Some notable names there. Jalen Pitre. Quay Walker went.
Big ass safety, so.
All right, we're going to reject. Remember the shit I took last year for wanting a linebacker? How'd that work out for y'all? I wanted a linebacker too. I wanted a linebacker and a tight end. All right. Again, we need edge. My guy's still sitting there. Ooh, Brandon Smith would be good. A linebacker. Let's go to the big board. My guy is the top guy. Ed Ingram is there. We don't really need a guard, though. We don't need a safety.
George Pickens would be a
wide receiver. While question marks are hanging over Pickens ahead of the 2022 NFL draft, it's easy to see why some NFL teams haven't been interested in him from his freshman campaign. 6'3", 200 pounds. We saw his name in the chat, actually. He was one of the dudes that somebody had mentioned him specifically. All right, so to wrap up the show, I am leaning the linebacker Brandon Smith from Penn State. He's got a hell of a lot of speed. And we'll say maybe George Pickens. That'll be the last pick for the... Oop, I just asked my community a poll with no question in it. James, who do you prefer? Of those two.
We got an offensive lineman, a safety, a tight end, and an edge. Well, listen, the positions don't sound that great, but we got some really good players, like football players.
Yes.
True.
I would take a chance on George Pickens. I'd be okay with that in the third round, I guess. I mean, he's hasn't been fully healthy, but when he plays, he's a pretty dynamic athlete. So.
Mike, you got any comment? I'm pretty sure we're gonna go with Pickens here. We haven't drafted any weapons really.
Yeah.
Other than Mr. McBride.
It makes sense.
All right. So we are gonna take George Pickens, and that will be our third round mock. It is the first mock on the channel for the off season, so big things. Again, just want to thank you guys before you dip out of here. And for anybody that's watching this after the stream ends, if you're watching it right now, you are a true fan of us and a true fan of the New York Jets. Really do appreciate it. Jared Helmuth, he says that Pickens is not being talked about enough. So we are getting pluses for that draft pick. We're going to see our full mock here.
This is hard.
Mock drafts? Yeah, they're really hard.
Yeah.
They're a pain in the ass. So Ikem Ekwonu was our first draft pick at 4th overall. Kyle Hamilton, 10th overall. The value is a little difficult to pass on there. Whoops, sorry. Screwing up again. I'm misfiring on my buttons tonight. That is not good. Okay. Trey McBride at 35. I love Arnold Ebiketie. That sounds good. Ebiketie. Arnold Ebiketie, edge rusher. And we got George Pickens, wide receiver. I don't like this mock.
I don't think it's that bad.
There are some really good players. That's true.
There is.
This is probably true. All right, Kev, Chada, and everybody else. Thank you guys so much for watching NYJ today. Hope you guys enjoyed the show. Thank you guys so much. Hit the like button on your way out. Mike and James, anything you want to say as we head out of here?
No, enjoy the week, yeah. Go ahead, Mike. Sorry.
No, I'll keep it short and simple. Have a great rest of your week, you guys. We'll see you back here for the next stream.
Sounds good. We will see you guys next Wednesday. Again, keep your eyes out for some more content. It will be coming out this weekend. Go Jets. Thank you so much, Grant Root, and everybody else for tuning in. Hope you all have a good rest of your week. Go Jets. See you guys next time. Peace. Word from my daughter.